but Amy is indifferent. Livy likes it, but Mum hates it. Imogen hates it. But then Arthur bought me a Marmite jigsaw puzzle for my birthday because he knows I like Marmite. Kids would buy you stuff that they think you like, right? Because he just thought the jigsaw puzzle was great fun. And then he bought me a personalised Daddy, that's real Marmite in there. And I bought that for a kitchen years ago. And it just kind of grew. It's my little Marmite thing.
Huge pots.
The thing about Marmite as well is that you love it or you hate it, right? Which is very much...
So the marketing says.
Well, but people do. So if you say Marmite, people have bought into that whole thing of I love it or I hate it. They've really bitten onto that. But again, it's just marketing. It's just bullshit.
So how do we get all this stuff, like all these books and stuff and everything that we've got the theory down, and how do we put that so that it's behaviours that play out and is the correct way of being?
Okay. So I think the first thing, is there a correct way of being? Is there a correct way of being, or is there a natural flow state of being that works best? In other words, if you turn it into a plan, into a specific set of rules, does that then constrict it by definition into the same thing that you're doing already? In other words, yes, you will do something that works, that's the right thing, but is that thing more fluid than a very set of 12 rules, a very set of specific rules? And that's the thing, isn't it?
I think you've got a story which has a beginning, a middle, and end, and a narrative, and I think you have the characters in it, and you're one of the characters in it, and we're acting out stories. I think that's the one thing, and then the other thing that we have is we'll put it as the all-seeing eye, the observer of the story. So there's living with yourself. So that's the two different people. I noticed I was doing this kind of thing, and so I think when you're in here, you're kind of safe from the story and your ego protection. Whereas when you put your awareness and consciousness into here, you can get easily lost in the emotional roller coaster ride of acting out your life and reacting and responding with your kind of base animalistic kind of primeval responses that are going to take over, because we're designed to stay alive and not die. We're not designed for enlightenment. Do you know what I mean? We're designed to have babies. We're not designed to see truth. So this universal like consciousness or this awareness is something that we all share, no matter which body we have. We all know that we're having an experience and that we're observing the own experience of our life, our own living avatar, so to speak, my body, your body. But the consciousness that exists in my body and yours is the same consciousness. It stems from the same source.
Yeah.
So I think when you tap into this and you step out your story, you step out your ego, you step out of your personal way of viewing the world, you tap into the fact that just the fact that you can have an experience right here and now is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that you're just aware now and present, because you tap into that. And when you tap into that and somebody else taps into that, you can resonate with somebody, because it doesn't matter about your human body and all your primitive, primeval stuff that you've got going on. And that's how people can do it with animals. You look at an animal, the animal looks at you. Now, you really don't know, but you know that that animal's conscious. And it's got a life in it, because it's the difference between something that's alive and something that isn't alive.
Yeah.
And like when somebody dies, like the moment they're there, and then the next minute they're not. Well, what's not there? Because the body's still there. This is still there. Like physically, everything is still there. But it's who that person is. Do you know what I mean? Oh, what were they? Their heartbeat? They're just organs.
Their consciousness isn't there.
Yeah. That it's the observer and the observed. And when you believe that you're the observed, what kind of story are you telling yourself about who you are as the observed character, as your avatar, I like to call it?
Yeah. And where are you getting that story from? What, in other words, you're brought up to believe that, I don't know, going to school is essential and learning these facts at school is essential. So from any given time period, there'll be a set of things at the minute that we learn, and you're told that you must learn those things, and some of them may be misleading. You know, when I went to school, there were 9 planets. there are 8 now. How can that be?
Mm.
Whether they're 9 or they're 8, right? And actually, does it really matter whether there are 9 or 8 planets, right? And my point being is that you are fed, spoon-fed, a story that you should adhere to, because then you are good. Like earlier we had a conversation where you said, be a good boy. You be a good boy, Doug. Play by the rules. Well, who invented the rules? And when they did invent the rules, why did they invent them that way? So if we don't question all of that, then we don't know why we have the beliefs we have in the first place.
And what's the purpose of having the rules?
And what's the purpose of the belief in the rules, and who are they benefiting, and all that?
And it should be right to be able to ask questions, because you're not disagreeing with it. You're just asking for
we're just questioning
specifics.
We're asking for clarification.
Cool, okay, I'll do that, but tell me why. And that's where why comes into it.
Yeah, I want clarification as to why that makes me a good person, because the observer, the bit of us that we all have, however tied in and bought into this story we are, still does that. And so Eckhart would say that there are 2 kind of modes. If you're closer to enlightenment, and there's a much more of an awareness of this part of you, then you'll live in constant discomfort of this doesn't quite sit right.
What doesn't sit right, sorry?
The story.
Yeah, because you know it's not true.
Because you know it's not true. And the more conscious you get, the more you realise this just is a myth.
Yeah. You're acting out a story.
You're acting out a story that's you are an avatar in the real world. By definition, you have become an avatar of your mind. Your mind's going, this is the story we have to do. I have to go out, make money, be successful, get a nice car, get married, do whatever it might be, right? Then your mind sends this chunk of stuff off into the world to go do that. Oh, it needs to look like this. I'll grow a beard, or I'll shave my head, or I'll wear these clothes, or I'll do this, and that will make me okay, right? And that's what. And so this is where marketing comes in. So this is where malevolence will manipulate. Oh, they've got this story, and we know we can actually manipulate it, because if we show lots of people pictures of really successful people, they'll buy our shit, right? And then we've told them if they buy our shit, they'll feel better about themselves, and everything will be okay, right? And that's manipulative, and that's where. But here's the rub. What happens then is we do all of that stuff. We go out, get lots of money, buy our car, and we're sitting there and we're fucking miserable, because we know we're going, this is supposed to make me happy, and it's not. So we all intuitively know that this story, and however that story is manipulated, however that story is created by whoever it's created, lacks substance, isn't necessarily true, and certainly doesn't give us fulfillment. Because this part of us, whether we are consciously aware of it or not, niggles away and says, "Why? Because if it were true, you'd just be happy. You get your Ferrari and you'd be happy, right?"
Yeah, I think it's a bit more. I think this is where huge changes can happen, because you have a story for your life. Now, some people are really happy in their life, and they're just, because of their natural characteristics or their personality traits or whatever it may be, or they've landed in a really good position, or they're generally a positive, easygoing person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they might enjoy their story, and they're aware of the pitfalls, but overall they like the story of who they are, and they like the story of life in general and how they interact with it. And there's other people that just feel uncomfortable in their own skin, and don't like and resent the life that all the cards that they've been given. And so that's where major changes, I believe, that can happen, is that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So what you're actually changing, you're changing the way that your consciousness looks at the story that you've been given.
Yeah.
And the avatar, and how you treat the avatar, because you've got to treat this avatar like the commodity it is, because this is where you live.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have an untidy house in the same way you wouldn't have an untidy mind or body, and that's where the room becomes an externalization of your internal state.
And there is also this idea that I am unhappy because my story doesn't match the status quo.
Well, is it the status quo, or is it your expectation of how you believe it should be?
Yes.
Based on what the status quo may have informed you.
So, because I am poor, and I don't have a girlfriend, and and I'm not particularly that attractive based on Brad Pitt as a well, that's how you need to look to be attractive, and all those things. My story suddenly looks pretty shit compared to Brad Pitt, who's a good-looking millionaire, who's very talented.
But you look at Brad Pitt's life and what he's gone through with Angelina Jolie and all this stuff that he's really suffered some.
Yeah.
And you when you look at it, there was one award show where he came out on the stage and he just had like everyone was just applauding him for just turning up because they know how difficult like his struggle had been. And so even with all those parameters and those factors, it still doesn't guarantee what you're looking for.
Exactly. So you're comparing your life, which lots of people will do, to I use Brad Pitt as an example, but any celebrity with lots of money. Yeah. But you don't know.
An archetype.
You don't know that they're not suffering too, even though they're a millionaire and they're all those things and they have all that stuff. Because invariably they will be. And they could be suffering for the exact opposite reason. They go, oh, I'm guilty. I've got everything. Look at me. I've got everything. I've got all this money. And
the more you have, the bigger is the fall, isn't it?
Yeah. But there was all these starving children in Africa, and here's me, I've got like freaking 80 million quid in the bank, or 150 million quid in the bank because I act a bit and I'm happen to be what people believe is a good looking thing, but I don't feel like that. So Brad Pitt and everybody else are doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. They're unsatisfied with their story, right? Because it's still a story. But they're comparing with everybody else's story. Whether that story is that I am super rich and I feel guilty about that because there are lots of poor people in the world and therefore how's that fair? Yeah, and then there are lots of people in the world that go, I'm really poor, and Brad Pitt's got everything, and that's not fair either. But every single person is doing is comparing stories.
And that's always been my thing, is that I think that you have a story about yourself, you have a story about the other people, you have a story about what life is or whatever it is. It's all you, but essentially it's all your story.
But they are.
So, but you own that, so you can change it because your story is predicated, and that's where all the thoughts come from. Because the thoughts are just going around a narrative that is playing itself out.
Yeah.
So once you change the narrative of the story, you change the thoughts that align with that. You literally resonate. You vibrate differently, and I think vibration has got a big thing to do with it. Sort of like. Yeah, because people talk about it elusively, or vibes, or the chemistry, or this kind of stuff. Because what they're talking to something that's a bit more ethereal, that they're not in control of. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, are you looking at this from a positive thing or a negative thing? So in the same way, like if you had peace, for example, or apathy, well, two are very similar if you were to look at them. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like another one would be anxiety and excitement. Both are really, like before you go on stage, you're like, I feel anxiety, but really it's excitement because it's your body's way of telling you ready to perform. So we all have these thoughts, feelings and emotions, but it's how we're treating them and what meaning we're attaching to them. What does this feeling mean? Oh, this means I'm anxious. Oh, this means I'm excited. So you're literally adding a story to the emotion that you're experiencing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But
so if you change your story, you change everything.
Yeah.
Because you've changed the complete narrative to your life. So if you say, oh, it's all crap and it's going down here. Whereas if you say, well, it's all good, then just changing that direction, that minute change here makes all the difference later on.
Yeah, it could do. But there's a spin to this. And the spin is that it would be too easy to say, if I just think positively, everything will be positive. Because it won't. And when something goes wrong, is it easy to spin off back down? Or do you go, okay, I accept that, let's just carry on, right? And it's like, and then there's that whole again with Eckhart, there's that whole story of the guy who wins the Ferrari, right? And perception of good, bad, good luck, what your story is. The guy wins the Ferrari, right? Everybody says, oh man, you're so lucky, you won the Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Gets in his Ferrari, goes to drive it, has a really bad crash, writes the Ferrari off, ends up in hospital. Oh, dude, that's so shitty. You've just written off your new Ferrari and you're in hospital.
Is that so? Yeah.
That night, because the guy lives on the side of a mountain, there's a landslide and his house is just obliterated in rocks. And had he just driven home in his car, and him would have been in the house and all killed. Oh, dude, you're so lucky you were in hospital and you wrote your Ferrari off because your house was crushed. And you can take that story as far as you like, right? Swing, it's a pendulum.
Mm.
Which one's good, which one's bad?
Mm.
How do you know?
Mm.
You don't know. right? You don't know that winning the Ferrari was a good thing or a bad thing. You don't know that having a crash was a good thing or a bad thing. You don't know that not being in the, yeah? You can't see where that's going to go. So by saying, the second you label it and say that's good luck or that's bad luck, no, you can't do that. You accept everything as it is. Either way, it is. For the moment that you won the Ferrari, yeah, that's a good thing. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be a good thing. And is it a good thing? I don't know. As if you like Ferraris. But the long and short of it is that this is a story, and maybe you shouldn't have a story.
Well, you can't not have a. That's the thing, and this is where I think it's more than just cultural indoctrination. I think that's how we perceive the world. Like, if you walk into a room, you see a baby crying, and you see a packet of crisps on the floor, you're going to attend the baby crying because it has consciousness, it has value. Like, everything in this room is telling a story, and you're acting out of a character. So it's really deeply embedded. Stories is the way in which we understand, because the metaphor of living, and each species has a species-specific story, and that they're all living out, and we're in the human story. So it's about getting the best human story that we can have, that we can all share. And one that sort of like, and I think the thing that does separate us from the animals to an extent is the fact that we have these amazing brains where we can imagine the fact, because the story only occurs when you have a past, a present and a future. A lot of the other animals are just living in the present moment.
Yeah, they don't have a story.
Yeah, because they're just living. They might not. I mean, they might not even know that they die. But because it can envision a future to the extent to which we can, and we have this amazing imagination, we've now created this amazing sort of like virtual reality, and that can be a great thing because we can visualise stuff that never existed, like this never existed, that never existed, this never. But then again, we can imagine all sorts of problems and challenges, and sort of like and create that the story happens in the imagination. So when you get rid of the imagination, that's where the enlightenment occurs, because that's what's left. Do you know what I mean? Because you've gotten rid of the past, where you've got a reason for being a victim, and you've gotten rid of all regrets, and you've gotten rid of a future that you can worry about, and sort of like because a lot of it is in the anticipation of it. So, and you always kind of like, oh, like it keeps you on that kind of edge. So the moment you kind of decimate the story that's in the imagination, or use it for a bit, or like I say, if you're aware of it, use it as a better tool. So tell yourself a better story. And make a decision. I think it is in the personal choice of the decision.
Yeah, but surely if like an animal, do you really need a story that is projected?
I'm saying you can't exist without one. You can't perceive anything without a story.
But
That's
a lion doesn't have a story.
What's that, sorry?
A lion doesn't have a story. A lion exists in the present moment at all times. Well,
it has the lion's story.
But it has the lion's story, right? But it's predicated on survival, and it's predicated on. So you say a lion doesn't know whether it's going to die, but it's protecting itself.
I'm saying that we do.
Well, right, but when a lion comes running after a gazelle, okay, and I am just thinking out loud here, the gazelle knows that death is imminent and it runs, right? Fight, flight, freeze. Okay, so there is a higher order somewhere of life, death, survival, right? In all animals, okay? There's a higher order somewhere. There's got to be, because otherwise, why would the gazelle run from the lion? He'd just get eaten.
But even just breathing, we know to breathe, but we don't, do we? Our body it's a kind of service that our body offers, and that's kind of what the animals are doing.
Well, it's autonomic, isn't it? So
basically, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so a massive amount of how your body operates and its intelligence is beyond your control. You know, just the fact that you can sit up and mess with that pen and read that and listen to me at the same time and breathe, and your body keeps itself upright, and your eyes can move around, and then just where to look to find me.
Hashtag multitasking.
Hashtag, like, not to mention that it's also processing what you ate, your breakfast,
yes, yeah.
and every other physiological process that's going on, and of which I have no idea how many there are. Somebody would probably tell you that, but let's say there's hundreds.
There's
least.
so many different systems going on, and within those systems, there's different conscious agents fighting for their right to survive.
Yeah. And
So
they're
you're in even just your brain is in constant conflict with itself. The left hand is in conflict with the right, and it's the difference between certainty and uncertainty. How much do I stick on this path of certainty, and how much of it do I explore new territory?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of like bit between the two. And there's times in your life where things are going really well, and there's times where it's not. And sort of like you're a different person now to how you were years ago, and you're going to be different in the future. But there's something that's consistent. It's this consciousness the whole time.
Yeah.
Even though your story changes, even though your body changes, the people in your life changes, your feelings change. Everything's in constant flux. But what's the thing that stays consistent throughout all the experience of your life is the fact that your ability to be able to consciously observe it.
Yeah.
And so once you sit in there, that's kind of like your safe space. And you can be in a jail cell or you can be out in the world. It doesn't really matter. Your safe space is the fact that you know that you're not your story. You're greater than your story. You're the awareness behind your story. You're the observer. You're not the guy on the film. You're the audience member watching the film. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know how that relates to what you were just saying there, but...
Well, this is back down to being in the world, right? And how
it's also down to free choice, because you mentioned because choice is a big thing, and that was in the video we just watched.
Yeah.
Choice was a big. You make a decision, you make a choice, and that was part of our chat last night. Is like, do you have free will? Do you have free choice? Because here's the thing: is that if you were just an autonomic nervous system or whatever, well, you wouldn't need consciousness. Everything would just run automatically. So why would you need agency? So the idea of the reason why you have consciousness, the reason why you have agency, is because you're the observer. You have you can see your body playing out the way it is, the world playing out the way it is, the weather playing out the way it is. Like life is unfolding before you, and you have a conscious choice about the next move that you're going to play.
Yeah.
And you're playing the game. That's essentially what playing, and it's all in that individual choice, that decision, because nobody else can really do that for you. And now there may be some people that come out and say, "Oh, well, your body decided it before you could get a chance to decide it." Well, that may be true, but it's still you doing it, even though it's a different part of you.
Yeah.
In the way that your body's deciding to breathe, your body's deciding to heal this cut that you have. Like it's you. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very important as a way of looking at better ways of being, is that realising that there's two worlds. There's the world in which you're acting out in the world, and that you're a character in the world, and that the world is how it appears to be to you. And there's another world, which is the fact that you have a capacity to just observe. And this is interchangeable. We can change this all the time. When things are going well, we feel good, and when things are going bad, we feel crap. And then we have our ups and downs in life. But we are the thing that observes the ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we always sit in this, and this is the thing we can all relate to, and this is the thing that resonates inside of every human being, because this is a human archetypical story as a way of perceiving reality. And that's quite deep, but...
Well, and also...
But sorry, as well, just to interject, that's what like Eckhart and all that, like, they're kind of alluding to this. You're the eye behind the observer, you know.
And of course, by definition, it's the only consistent link. It's the only, it's the only consistent thing between everybody. Because of this story, my story is different from your story, and like a fingerprint, everybody's story is different, right? So every single you might have a group of people that have a roughly similar set of beliefs, but they're all slightly different, which means they're all slightly missing and misunderstanding each other within the stories, right? So which hence so much conflict in the world. Well, my story is I'm an atheist, or I believe in God. Well, I don't believe in God. I believe in whoever, whichever God it is that you do and don't believe in. I'm a logic man, but my logic's just as much a God as somebody believes in God or a Jehovah's Witness or anybody else. Now, there are lots of things about lots of people's stories that I fundamentally disagree with, but only from my perspective of my story. They also similarly fundamentally in the same way disagree with me, right? But the problem with all of these disagreements and these ideas and these beliefs is they're all stories. They're all fictitious in the end, because nobody went back. You can't go back far enough to question how it came about that group of religious people decided that this was the way, and this is how it's going to be, and this is what's going to happen when we die, and blah blah blah. And this group of religious people said, no, it's not that. It's this.
It's a battle of stories. That's what religion
It's a
is.
battle
That's what the wars
of stories.
are. Yeah.
Well, yeah, wars,
Whose story's better?
religions, politics. Everything's all a battle of somebody's story of how they think it should be, based on how their belief system has grown and what influences they had to believe those stories in the first place. But what nobody's doing, or what very few people are doing, is stepping away from the story up here, where we kind of have the same clear space. This is like a clear space.
Yeah, that's the thing we can all resonate with.
It's like
It doesn't even require
no
language.
story.
It doesn't even require language.
no story, no language, but there's a consciousness that we connect.
Mm.
So we connect, as does every other person, a living entity, via this. This is the link that holds all of this shit together.
Mm.
Otherwise, there would literally be so much chaos and anarchy in the world that why do all these stories somehow manage to kind of, okay, we have a lot of tussles and a lot of arguments, and you can look at Brexit, or you can look at Donald Trump getting into power, or you can look at any of these things. And lots of people have a lot of stories that clash, and there's arguments, and well, that's wrong, and you're an idiot, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But we all seem to somehow manage to still be all here, and we're not all dead. You know, how come there's not been World War III and we're just all dead?
But there have been world wars.
Well, there have been world wars, and they've demonstrated what happens under certain circumstances when stories get way too big and out of hand, and too many people believe the same one.
But just bringing it down into more day-to-day way of living, and sort of like, because one of the things that we started off with this is sort of like, how can we take this knowledge and implement it into our daily lives? And I think that, and one of the things that I struggle with is cliches. It's when someone says, "Oh, just be yourself," or "Just do this," or "This." And I'm just like, you're a bag of walking cliches. You haven't even thought. You don't even believe that.
So here's how So I'm the same, right? When you go through Facebook, and all you get is dream it and you can be it.
Dream it, you can be it. Be positive.
Be positive. You know, life's for living, or whatever. But my favourite is dream it and you can be it. Right, okay. Let's test that theory, shall we?
I want to kill everyone.
No, go do it. Yeah, go do it, man.
He's motivated.
No. Here you go. So I have a dream.
What a mass murderer.
I have a dream to be the winner of the 100 metre sprint at the next Olympics. That's my dream. That's my goal. So if I just dream it and I work hard, that's fine, right? I can beat it. Yeah? Yeah? I'm 47. I'm a skinny white guy. I mean, if running long distances, but I am not a powerful human being in terms of physical strength, and it really doesn't matter how hard and how much effort and how much I dream it, how much I believe it. We all know the reality of the situation is that is never going to happen, ever. I can never be, in 2 or 3 years' time, or whenever the next Olympics are, because I've got no idea, fit enough, strong enough, fast enough to win, because the rules of that game dictate in this physical world that there's no way I could get that far.
Imagine if you got second place. Like, see, you're still
I
proving
wasn't
your point.
far
Right?
off. I'm still pretty far off. I didn't win, did I? Like, but you see my point. Okay, I'm taking it too far, maybe, but I'm not, am I? Because dream it and you can be it. Well, okay, but why would you want to dream it and be it? Do you? It's like Jordan says. Why do you even think that just because you think a notion took over you at some point that winning the 100 meters race would be a good idea, that you should then just spend your entire life chasing that?
And so dream it and you can be it. Let me play devil's advocate to this. So dream it and you can be it. So the reason why you don't like it is because it's not true.
Well, it's not realistic necessarily. I'm not putting your hopes down.
That's why it's a dream.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. And will always remain so.
But let's say, what was that example you just gave? So we can stick on the example.
So I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win the 100 meters final.
Okay, now let's say if you did believe that, right? You said, "Fuck it, do you know what I'm gonna do? Do you know what my life is about now? Fuck everything else. I'm gonna go and win the 100 meters final or whatever." Right. Well, I'm gonna need to get some trainers. I'm gonna need to get up every morning. Like, it's not the fact that you do that. It's who you become on the way to getting that dream.
Right.
So whether you achieve it or not, it's not in terms of it's it's the person, the tool that you need to become to achieve that dream.
Yeah.
And it's how it changes you and how that resonates with you as a person. And it's monitoring the progress towards a desired outcome that is the fulfillment in that, not actually attaining that. So let's say in a year from now you're delusional and you think, yeah, I'm going to go do this, and after a year you've been doing training, you're super fit now, you're eating all the good foods, you're doing this, that. It's a systemic effect because you've asserted a goal, and the downstream effect of that is that your life is substantially improved. Now, you can't even like apply for it, let alone compete in it, but look at where you were to where you are now. So that's one of the cool things, and I'm not disagreeing with your point. What I'm saying is that's one of the cool things about dreaming something, and you can make it real, even if you can't, because what else are you going to do? Because somebody else has got a dream, and you're going to be living out their dreams, and you're going to be on their story and their narrative, on their agenda. So you might as well have your own one, and aim towards something that you're interested in. You're more likely going to be passionate about it. You're more likely going to want to do it. You're going to be more motivated for it.
Yeah.
You're going to give a better positive energy to it, as opposed to being forced into somebody else. And this is the standard working for somebody that you don't want to be working for, in somebody else's dream, on their narrative, and you're just literally saying you're being a tool. So you might as well be a tool to your own vision as opposed to somebody else's.
Yeah. Now, to clarify, and you've kind of said that, I'm not saying you shouldn't imagine that you can be more, better, whatever it is. Okay.
It's unrealistic.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't say
it. It was unrealistic.
I'm just saying that.
And I'm saying it is, but it doesn't have to be realistic.
But here's the thing: that is not enough. So if I wake up in the morning and somebody motivates me, dream it and you can big it, Doug. Off you go. And then what?
It's not specific enough.
Right. So if I just dream it, and you see it on X Factor a lot. I've always wanted to be the best singer in the world. They open their mouth, they start singing, and guess what? They're just not, right, the best singer in the world. And that's subjective maybe, but usually you by consensus, the people who are the best singers, the best actors, the best runners, through the most people going, we want to watch them. I want to listen to them. Don't know why. It resonates with me, you know. So for me, it's people like Phil Collins, and I get slagged for that. But I think he's awesome, right? But something about his voice, his tone of voice, and guess what? It turns out I'm not alone. Quite a lot of people feel like.
Could be our third brother.
Yeah, because we could be. You could be
from the Collins line of.
Perhaps that's why I like him. But all right, or whoever, right? Sting. Yeah. I like Freddie, obviously. Yeah. Who doesn't? Well, yeah, maybe there's some people. But why Freddie Mercury? Why Freddie Mercury? Well, because...
Yeah, I've never seen the attraction of him. Why do you like Freddie Mercury?
I don't even know why, but I do. There's just something in it, right? But and it's not just me, right? Obviously it's not just me, because 500,000 people or whatever turn up at Rio to listen to the guy sing and that band play, right? Now, that's
because he had a dream, Paul.
But, well, here's the thing.
And he believed it.
Here's the thing. He kind of didn't. He was just being him.
Yes, yeah.
So what Freddie Mercury was doing at all times, he kind of had a dream and he had a goal, but it wasn't just driven by, I'll believe I can do it and that's it. It was also backed up by a lot of talent, ability, luck, that he had all the right components, timing, and then just going out in the world, doing it, and people going, oh, that's nice. I want a bit of that, and telling 20 friends, and before you know it, 500,000 people want to come and listen to you sing. Now, here's what happens when I go out onto a running track, and I run. Everybody goes, ooh, yeah, all right, dude. Okay, anyway, where were we? Nobody's going to be impressed by watching me run. Ever.
Right.
Now, and okay, I'm getting into potentially muddy water here because people are going to go, oh, my feelings are going to be hurt because you're saying I can't be a great singer or Olympic, whatever. But what I'm saying is that why do you, same as this story, arbitrarily set this goal of a dream that's basically unattainable?
Well, again, you're putting these negative connotations into it, like people are going to think this, it's unattainable, it's unrealistic. You're coming up with reasons as to why you can't achieve a dream. And so it might be more of a question of, like, why dare to dream in the first place? Why dare have a vision? Because then you specify the failure.
So here's the thing. I'm not what I'm actually saying is that.
Because, sorry, just to interject, when I have a dream and I think I'm going to do something, I know nothing can stop me. Because I can see it and I can see how I'm going to do it, like with this YouTube channel. I know it can't fail. So I approach it with vigour and passion. And even if somebody came up to me, I'd laugh at it if they told me. Because I can see something they can't. I can see beyond the current reality into the future.
Yeah.
And that's the superpower that we have with the imagination.
Yeah.
And and so we're probably talking the difference between, you're talking more like nightmare it, and you can do it.
No, yeah.
No, you know,
Yeah.
it's a dream or not. The whole idea of a dream is that it's inspirational, that it's positive. Whereas a nightmare, it's the same hallucination in another dream-like state, but it's not a dream. It's a nightmare. So what you're saying sounds more like a nightmare, or what a dream can turn into a nightmare.
All I'm really saying is that
Because that's based on realizing what you can't do.
what I'm saying is here's the bottom line. There is nothing wrong with me determining that my dream is to go win the 100-metre final. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm waiting for it now. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why we're sitting there talking about it. I want to see you do it now.
Right. What is wrong is that just making that statement is enough to make it happen. Right. Because what happens on social media... Well, wait. On social media, what happens is you see this motivational quote float by, dream it and you can be it. Great, I'll dream it and I can be it. Right, I'm dreaming that I'm going to be the next Freddie Mercury.
So you're hallucinating it, yeah.
Right, so I decide that's going to happen. So where Freddie Mercury took that without somebody, by the way, first motivationally quoting him to do it, because he didn't do that. He didn't have a quote at the beginning on Facebook that said, by the way, go out dreaming, you can be it. He just was doing that in action.
Yeah, when you tap into it, you're just doing it, yeah.
He's just doing that in action. So he was behaving that way, and people might use him as an example.
Yes.
But he didn't start with a motivational quote. He started with, oh, I like singing. I'll go sing. I'm singing at you. Doug, do you think I can sing?
It's more organic.
There's an organic process. And the thing is, he kept doing it a lot. And this is down to your 10,000 hours. This is down to your Malcolm Gladwell and your outliers, right? So maybe it is possible that I could go win that 100 metres final if I spend 8 hours a day for the next 3 years with the right training and the right mentality and the right effort and the right whatever. Maybe it's possible, a bit like Eddie the Eagle, that I could even enter that race and fucking fail. But I got as far as even entering the race, right? I managed to convince them to do it. That Eddie the Eagle thing. Now that, nothing wrong with that, because that inspires people, that drives people to be the best they can be. Even if the best you can be is only 10th, that's still better than 100th. Not that being first, 10th or 100th is in my opinion, what it's about anyway. But
it's like Evel Knievel, just as he goes off the Grand Canyon. It's an impossible dream,
oh,
Evel.
Dear. Yeah, that went well.
It wasn't called Good Knievel, it was called Evel Knievel.
Yeah.
He's disrupting it.
But you get my point. So my point is that
It gives a false expectation.
There's a false expectation in that all you have to do is dream it and you'll be it. Right, and I think the problem in with social media and with the way the world is now is that people actually have got a little bit conned into, well, if I dream it, I can be it, and then they're disappointed when they dream it and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, but you need to do more than that. That's just the first.
Well,
step.
Quite. But this is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
this needs to come with a footnote of, oh, and by the way, you need to exercise and eat and whatever for the next 3 years, 7 days a week.
It doesn't include the sacrifices. So you go, yeah, I could go out and do this. It's a bit like when you're chatting with guys in the pub. Yeah, I could have a. It's like, could you really?
Because by the way,
I could go out and make $1 million if I wanted to.
not only,
if I wanted to, that's the prerequisite to that. It's like, if I wanted to, I could dream it and be it.
No.
Yeah, well, go on then. Well, just show me instead of talking about it.
But do you want to then actually extrapolate from that what you need to do? You need to eat like this, you need to exercise like this, you need to train like this, mentally and physically, and that needs to be pretty
And that's
much
what I'm saying.
your entire life.
Yeah.
Then, not only that, you have to give up, right, going to the pub, drinking, all the things that you love, chocolate, whatever, you have to give all those things up too, and you have to give up thinking that you're going to have a life, like you're going to be able to get married and do those things like that. Fuck that, you can't do that, sorry, because you're not going to have time. You've only got 24 hours in a day, and you're going to need 15 of those to get training enough to go do this thing that you want to do.
Sorry, I've got to say this. Sorry to interrupt, but it's like, it's who you've got to, what you've got to sacrifice, who you've got to be in order to get what you've got to become, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like, because in order to get what you want, you need to be a certain person.
Yes.
And are you prepared to make the sacrifices between the person you are now and the person that you would need to be
to get what that one? Yeah.
And that's going back to like the basketball players.
Which is why this is as dangerous as fuck. Because you can't just tell somebody to dream it and they can be it. I love the notion of it, but the reality is all of that other stuff.
Let me just, because I've played devil's advocate a bit, let me just kind of reaffirm this with you. Another thing as well is that when you think the dream it, you can be it thing, it's also instant gratification, which is what all social media is about. It's sort of like getting that dopamine, like spike urge, sort of like, having that chocolate.
Yeah, I'm going to dream it.
I don't need it. Woo! I feel amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, right, it's going to get a cup of tea. I'm exhausted, all that visualisation.
Right, it's a bit like earlier when we were saying about people being social justice warriors.
Yeah.
Oh, you bastard! You racist git. They put the phone down and go, alright, what's on Netflix? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I've done my activism for today.
Yeah, okay.
What you want, and the most laziest thing is the most convenient. Oh, I just read that. I feel inspired now. I don't have to do anything.
Okay, let's go. Right,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just watch this box
Whereas
set of Breaking Bad.
If you've just finished the, you're like,
Yeah.
if you can dream it, you can be it.
Yeah.
He's earned that right to say that.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing as well is that, sorry, no, go on, you go on. I lost my thread.
Look.
It's instant gratification. That's what that does.
Yes.
And
all I'm pointing out is I'm not trying to be Mr. Grumpy Pants and say you shouldn't have a dream and you shouldn't try for it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. Really,
what you're saying is it's more difficult than it's being made out to be.
I'm not even talking about realism or realistic or whether it's realistic or not. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm not saying the dream has to even be realistic. I don't. Right, Elon Musk is trying to fly people to Mars. Now, on face value, that's ludicrous. But he'll probably fucking do it. And why? Because he kind of has this motto over his head, dream it and you can do it. But the caveat to that is he also puts in exceptional amounts of time, effort, work and money.
Okay, right, let's shift gear a bit here, Paul. So changing it back to what we were originally talking about.
Where we are now. This is where
but this is where I'm aligning the two. So how can we implement this into our daily lives? How can we take this?
Okay, how can you bring it in?
Right, you're saying this is, I don't like this. Okay, so my question to you now is bringing those two together. Is so you don't like this, dream it and you can be it kind of thing.
No.
So what would you have in place of that?
So, I think...
What story? You're saying, I'm going to take this story away from people. Well, what are you going to replace it with?
Okay, right. So, look, here's the thing. Going back to people that have notably been hugely successful, like, say, let's stick with singers, Freddie Mercury or whoever, right? Let's say Freddie. Freddie was creating a story, but he wasn't necessarily doing it from the point of view of it's going to be like this in 5 years' time. It's going to be like this. He was much more being an entity in the world in real time. So when he first goes on stage, so he was looking at the band with Brian and whoever in it and going, wow, I'd love to be up there. He got up there and he went, oh, I like this. This is nice, this is comfortable, I fit, I'm going to be this. And everybody's going, oh my God, look at this guy, he's a fucking Fruit Loop. He's nuts. And he's going, I don't care, it feels good. I'm good, right? And then people start to go, oh God, that energy, man, it's rubbing off, I like it, you know. Yeah. And he's going, so this is me, and this is what I am, and this is what I'm going to do. So how can I be better? All right, okay, so I'll write some songs, I'm going to write some, I'm going to be, and he just continued to be, but on the edge of what he thought he could do, right? Mm-hmm. And beyond what he thought he could do. So in a sense, he was going forward with that mentality of there's no barrier to my future, but he wasn't trying to plan it and have a story that was going to be there. He might have said to himself, I'm going to be famous. I want to be famous, right? In an arbitrary way. But what he was actually doing day to day, every single day, is actually doing things that made that happen. So he didn't say, he never sat down and said, I'm going to go write a song, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. He would go, oh, I'm on stage, I love it. I'm going to change the words. I'm going to do that now. Oh, got this great song. Oh, yeah. So he's present in the moment all the time, reacting to a thought, an action, and then doing it, and then it coming out, and then pushing it forward and saying, guys, there's this song. No, Brian, you got to play that again. Do it again. That's it. Love it. Right, we're off. Put it out there. It's shit. I like it. It's great. So what I'm saying is, he was there's a level of presence that nothing was deterring him from, because in the end he was doing it for kind of himself, really. Yeah, he was doing it for him. Everything else was really more of they were voyeurs observing him being him.
It's difficult for me to, because I don't know much about Queen. I haven't even seen the film, the new one that's come out, and the whole thing. So I don't know.
And this kind of applies to basically anybody
anyone that's gone out and been. It's a rock star kind of.
Or anybody really. I mean, you could even say about Bill Gates. The circumstances and things are slightly different. You could say it about,
But let's bring it back a bit, because it's sort of like, because again, I still don't know what the answer is. Sort of like, so what would you replace Dream It with? Being like, what would you okay? So if you could take that away and replace it with something else that would help people improve their lives or find better ways of being, what would you replace Dream It and You Can Be It with that would make you feel, because you don't feel good looking at that and you think, oh, because it's missing out all this information. So what would you replace in that post?
I reckon, and again, I am freestyling because we're exploring.
Yeah, there is no correct. It's just asking questions.
If you just get rid of Dream It and have You Can Be It.
But
if
be what? Because there's no dream.
Right, but
what I'm saying is that sort of like, firstly, it's sort of like, is it a dream worth attaining? So firstly, you got to dream it. So because I'm on your side here, I'm saying I disagree with this, but I'm explaining that it's instant gratification, and that is it a dream that's worth attaining? Is it a dream that is going to benefit you or the community? And are you? Are you designed to be that? Is that your purpose here?
Also,
it's very presumptuous.
And also, is it absolutely? Are you really certain that it's your dream?
Yes, it might be a cultural or human
Is it really
dream.
your dream?
Yeah.
So the big question you've got to ask yourself when you read.
I'm going to need this paper. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
That's right. You've got your own pad.
And they're the same size. We measured them earlier.
Equality.
Equality of pads. Yeah. It's the only thing we've measured recently. So
mine's got less pages than yours.
It hasn't, because you've written one out, so I'm up.
Oh my god.
Listen.
I need a new pad.
I was there. Is it your dream? Is it really your dream? Right? So, the great thing about the time that, say, Freddie Mercury grew up in was that the media was a lot less connected and a lot less people knew what everybody else was doing. So, was it his dream? Well, yeah, it was his dream. He heard some people singing, so I like singing, I'll do that, and then that's carried on, right? The initial drive was not fame, fortune, and being on the telly. The initial drive was, I like doing this thing. And I would argue for me, as a singer, and as somebody interested in psychology, and somebody interested in coaching, and somebody interested, I do this every day. I know that I'm interested in it because I sit and listen for 5 hours a day to this stuff. And that's my place. That's where I'm happy. That's where I'm at peace.
Mm.
Yeah? So, and I know when I'm singing and playing music that I'm in a natural place for me to be, which makes me very fortunate in our current society because those things happen to be revered. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's true for anybody else who happens to be very talented at acting or music or very pretty or whatever it might be, because the things that are revered you kind of naturally have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But if you get into the realm of the X Factor, like, I look at this pretty girl like Taylor Swift or whoever it might be, and, you know, iconic teenagers or whatever they are now, and lots of little girls now see them instantly and go, oh, they're so pretty and everybody loves them, brilliant, I want to be like that. That's what I want. But they're aiming, but they're not singers. They don't want to sit and sing all day long, right? So I play the saxophone, right? You know I play the saxophone, and I'm pretty good.
Do you play Baker Street?
I can. I can.
Oh,
Do you want me to do it now?
No, because if you
that's-
weren't, you wouldn't be a true player in that case, would you?
No. We all need to
Only
play.
true musicians that own.
But when you walk through the door of the secret saxophone players club,
Yeah,
the first thing they do is they've got this little soundproof room,
yeah,
and they take you in and they say, "I know you say you can play Baker Street,
yeah.
right? But you've got to put your money where your mouth is, dude.
Yeah, put your lips where your trumpet is.
And you got to put your lips where your reed is, and we need you to do it right now, right? And that's what they have when you go into the secret saxophone players society club thing, right? Okay. And so when I do
I didn't
that,
mean to belittle the saxophone by calling it a trumpet. I wanted to incorporate trump into them.
that's all the
Blowing your trumpet.
plebs that walk into my goes, "You're gonna blow your trumpet, mate."
It's a subliminal message.
Yeah, listen, you'll get where I'm going in a second, right?
Yeah, sorry, guys.
So shut up, Doug.
Oh yeah.
Just shut it. So what I'm saying is that so they will hear me play Baker Street and go, "Wow, that sounds amazing, just like the original." Blah blah blah. Okay, right. I want to do that. That's my dream. And I met a guy actually who may do it. I don't know. He says, "I've always wanted to play the saxophone. I've worked in corporate. I've got loads of money." He's about my age. He's retired, which I won't be.
Retired at 24. That's really good.
Oh, Doug.
Oh, stop it. It's
Nice. Easy. What's
Yeah.
that? Anyway.
It's my pen.
Oh, I thought it was the same kind of.
It's alright.
yeah.
You gave it to me. It's blue, but.
Okay. Well, would you want me to look at it? Sorry, just going to interrupt this.
It's, could be it. It's done.
Oh, they're not red.
Is it?
No, it's Oliver Stumper writing a Why on Earth, which she sent to me.
You didn't want to open that letter, did you?
No.
Jesus.
No, I
I
thought it
saw
was
the
gonna
fear
be-
in your eyes.
Well,
It's Birmingham. I knew as soon as I saw Birmingham Children's Hospital, I was like,
no,
this
it's
is
just
it.
Oliver
This
Stumper
is-
saying I'm surprised
This is
to
the
see
letter
you."
saying
Yeah.
she's coming in. 'cause
Why?
when
You
she's-
feel your heartbeat going
I
on,
could,
that kind of
I
shit.
could,
Yeah. Look,
Right, so going back to this, dream it and you can be.
right. Look, so people will listen to me, and they will, and this is the same as any pop star, and they look at it, and of course we get it all instant gratification. We get it now, like there she is. Look, I want to be like that, right? So this is why I'm questioning it. Is it your dream? Now I was playing that saxophone at school long before I really knew anybody that played it, and certainly any pop stars that played it or anything like that. It's just I saw it on the side and I thought, oh, that looks quite cool. I'll have a go at that, and somebody taught it me, and here I am. And back down to the marathon running. So I'm talking to the guy in the repair shop. Yeah, I'm talking to the guy in the repair shop. He goes, "I want to play Baker Street," and I just got my sax out and went. He's going, fuck, he's wetting himself. Oh man, that's exactly what I wanted to do.
I was getting a little bit moistless. So.
Yeah, I know. And I was only singing it. Imagine if I was playing it.
No, I can't.
You know, well, you can't afford
I
it.
can only
so
dream it.
You can dream it. You know, I've got a recording. I couldn't do it for real because I don't know if you'd survive, if I'm honest. But you know, anyway, look. How do you get there, right? Is it easy to play Baker Street? Yes, it is for me. How? Well, you know what? I spent like 25 years blowing long notes on my own in a dark room, blowing down a fucking tube of metal, and place goes, and all the intricate number of different things that you learn along the way are all embedded in how I can play that the way I can, right? And that's true of singing and true of any skill. Magic. It's true of magic, it's true of writing, it's true of any teaching, any skill. So is it your dream? Well, you'll know it's your dream. A good friend of mine who's a phenomenally talented bass player, Simon, has, as far as I'm aware, very few qualifications in music whatsoever. What did he do? He heard a bass one day, I Shot the Sheriff something, and he went, oh fuck, I love that sound. Goes out, finds what it is. Oh, it's a bass guitar. Okay, great. 6, 7, 8 years later, he hasn't ever put it down. He's been listening to records and going, banging away at it and getting some books. Oh, great. What's that? Yeah, okay. And now he's just a phenomenal talent. But there was no question. And still today, he's like that. Simon, how do you learn to play the bass? Like, I don't know. Just keep doing it, man. I listen to this. Listen to this. He's excited about something.
He's following what you're interested in.
He's excited about something. He'll go,
Yeah.
and whatever day you catch him on, he'll have something he's excited about that day about the bass, right? That's new, and he'll go, I heard this yesterday. Man, listen to this, and it's just, did you hear what he did there? He just did this little. I'm trying to work out what it is, and I can't, and he'll spend like 2 weeks trying to work out what that little thing is, and one day he'll get it, and then that's it, that's done, and there'll be another thing, and all those things stack up, and then suddenly he becomes this fucking monster of a bass player. But it's not all of a sudden. It's an ongoing process. He's in the moment all the time of I'm excited to be learning this thing. He's in a constant single moment of excitement at what the possibilities are and where he's going with it. Yeah? Now the trail is that he's got all this stuff he's picked up along the way and it stays with him. Right? But he has, because of this obsession, he's got this true nature. So did he ever start with dream it, you can be it? No, he didn't. He heard something when...
It's very presumptuous, Paul. You don't know that.
No, I do, because I've spoken to him
No,
lately
but
about
like Freddie Mercury, when he said earlier, it's like, you don't know what other people are thinking. You see, that's why I kind of like, here's another, because I'm going on your side of the fence and opposite it.
Yeah.
So somebody else could read that, and they might be having like a weight loss goal or something like that. But, I could never do that. And then this scrolls up on their Facebook time feed saying, you can dream, you can be it. I can. And if it works for that person, then how is that a bad post?
So...
Because it's all based on the person. Because not everybody wants to go out and be a superstar.
No.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm off now, so I will see you again sometime.
Oh, I'm going to see you again.
No, not today.
Have a good one. Take care.
And
See you
you,
again.
lovely. I'm looking after Chloe, aren't I, this afternoon while Steph goes to work, and then I'm there till about 6. But you'll have gone.
Party.
You'll have gone by then, won't you?
Yeah.
What time? You're going to sort yourself out
I
for
don't know.
food? Yeah?
Yeah.
So you'll use up that chicken and those
Yeah.
beans?
Probably, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right.
Well, alright, take
Take
care.
care.
See ya. Look, so yeah,
So
I
what
get
I'm
that.
saying is that it might not be for the guy that wants to go out and be Freddie Mercury, but for somebody that's sort of like sitting in the thing and all they can do is scroll because they're probably so big. No, it might be true. It might be the only thing
Maybe
they're
it's
capable
true.
of. It
Yeah,
might
yeah,
be
yeah,
their
yeah.
exercise for the day.
Yeah, yeah.
And they go, you can dream it, you can be it. And you've seen these videos where people have been like, and they need the nutrition of these ideas, this positive push. And that's what I like about these, is that it's the nutrition. It's sort of like feeding your mind with like, you can dream it, you can be it. It's a push towards having a goal and going towards it. And you can do it no matter what. And so so as a broader thing here, what I'd say is, and by listening to what you said, is it's like it's a transformative process. So it's who you are and who you would like to be, and it's where you are and where you would like to be, or what you would like to be doing, what you're doing now.
Yep.
So and what you would like to be doing has got to be aligned with who you are, what you're being, and vice versa, because you can't just go out and say, I'm going to go do this and then be a drug addict or this, that, because the two won't work. You've got, like you said earlier, it's got to be kind of aligned. If you're going to go out and win the Olympics doing this, then you've got to discipline yourself, you've got to train, you've got to be motivated. There's a whole plethora of things that need to occur in a person that you need to become in order to get what you want. And I think one of the things that you're saying about this is that all you have to do is just think about what you want, you can get it.
That's
And
what it implies.
That's what it comes across like to you, but it might not to somebody else.
No.
And so what Mike is saying is that I don't think it's a bad thing, and I think that if you're going to take it away and say, oh, well, we shouldn't have that, well, what's the alternative?
So, to me, it's as if
For
it
you,
needs...
like, forget everyone else from it. Well, like,
To
so
me-
you read that and you go, oh, what would you like to read instead to make you go, and then automatically go do something?
So, I wouldn't.
Oh, well, there is no answer then.
No, because... And I'm not saying I'm special, because...
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying it's
I'm
whatever
not.
works for you. Yeah.
But the things that I've done, say, in my life, like learning to play the saxophone, being a singer, doing some business stuff, being a skydiver, right? What happened was...
You followed your passions.
well, I didn't even follow passions.
Well, it's what you're excited about.
So I saw a saxophone one day. I thought, oh, I heard that song, Your Latest Trick. I quite like that sound. I'll see if I can have a go at making that sound. There's a saxophone, there's a teacher there. He's a really good teacher. He said, oh yeah, if you want me to teach you that at lunchtime for 20 minutes, I'll give you a little starter.
And there was no thoughts at that point that came in and said, you're not good enough to learn it.
No. And also, but
But you see, in other areas, you have those thoughts. So how come they weren't present in that particular situation? This is interesting. This is what I'm saying. This is what we're looking at.
But that thought process grew later on. That came later on as I got older.
But there's still certain things you do now, like this manifested itself, like we're sitting here talking, we decided upon it.
Yeah.
There wasn't, and this feels good, this feels right. There's no, this feels like this is the way, where the water's meant to be flowing.
I'm excited by
Do you
it.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm passionate and curious and sort of
Yeah.
like, you know, and there's nothing really holding you back from doing this, and it's easy for you to do, you're interested in it, there's certain criteria that's aligned, but it's not because you read Dream It and You Can Be It, oh, I'm going to go and start a podcast
No.
with Doug. So I understand what you're saying there. So the alternative then, and you don't want to use the word passion, so what word would you use to say when things that happen and you create a new branch of a tree or you plant a new seed, how does that come about? And because there are times when you're doing things and you've got all these negative, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about people
Everybody,
in general.
yeah.
You've got all these negative beliefs that are holding you back. If you were to go and do a university course and this, you might think, oh, education, this, that, the other. Whereas if you go, oh, if I just started, well, I already know about this. There's already a certain degree of confidence. It's easy. Like there's a thing I did write down earlier. It's BMAT. So it's behaviour equals motivation, ability, and trigger. So you've got to be motivated. You've got to have the ability to be able to do it, and you've got to have something to trigger it. So like today, for example, was like. The behaviour occurred because there was behaviour, so there was the motivation to do it. So this is something that you wanted to do, and that all gets down to, is it easy or hard? Because the harder it is, the more motivation you're going to need, the more discipline you're going to need.
Yeah.
This is kind of easy for you to do. So it's easier to say yes to the motivation because there's an interest in it. So that motivation, ability, can I do this? Well, yeah, and even when I got here, you said, look at all the stuff I can do, because you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's easy for you to do. And then the trigger is, oh, I'll be there at 10 o'clock or whatever the time is. Do you know what I mean? So it's sort of like, so the behaviour occurred.
Yeah.
And so when things are harder because they require more motivation, or you don't know how to do it, or you don't have the ability, or don't believe that you do have the ability, then or there's not even a trigger. So yes, I can do it. Yes, I'm motivated to do it, but there's no trigger. There's no time. I don't know when I'm supposed to. You need a trigger as well. Then the behaviour won't occur. So what are the behaviours that flow out effortlessly, that are a positive impact in our life, where we tap into that flow state and things just kind of take off for us? And the other ones that we spend all our lives trying to avoid and fight, and we get into the mud with the pigs and start wrestling with them and get all dirty. Do you know what I mean? How can we have this version of ourselves instead of trying to, you know, stay away from this version of ourselves? If that makes any sense, what I just said.
Absolutely does. And I would say this. I've tried a lot of things. So I spent 13 years, I decided I would be into martial arts and do taekwondo. And I spent 13 years kind of trying that, and it got me fairly fit, and I was pretty flexible, and I could do it a bit, but it wasn't really, I was never really that good at it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't, you know, for me, there was something else kind of pushing me to it. But what did I do? I went, okay, what I did was, oh, I like the idea of that. I wonder where there's a class.
So you took action straight away.
So
that's one thing.
So I literally went, okay, rather than dream it and I can be it or whatever, I just went, okay, well, let's see what the reality of this situation is. And the reality of the situation is, just like everything else, if you want to be good at it, there is a lot of time, effort, and commitment required for everything, basically. Now then, but let's step back from that point, because that's not what you're saying.
What happened? Baby steps.
What happened was, I had an idea. Oh, I saw somebody, or I saw something, or I thought, I align with that. And so I still like the martial arts thing, because I like the ethos behind what, it's quite a spiritual, there are lots of spiritual elements to
how to engage with conflict, yeah.
Well, and also the best way is that you're not ever attacking, it's defence. So the thing about most martial arts, I don't know, I can't speak for all of them, but certainly for one or two of them, certainly for the kind of martial arts I do, everything you learn is a defence followed by an attack, not an attack followed by a defence, obviously. In other words, if you don't go to punch me, then I'm just going to stand here. I am not going to come at you first. But if you come at me, I am going to block that, and then with devastating force, make sure you're fully aware that you cannot do that again. And the idea with Taekwondo was that one hit and you're down. One strike, boom, out of the game. So it's very highly efficient. The idea was it was efficient, right? But the idea, and there's this idea, and this kind of probably goes into somewhere else, not to do with this. But with that idea, the idea is that if we were all that good, nobody would fight. if you know you're going to try and punch me, I'm going to block you and knock you out, then we respect each other.
So what was it that made you go to the classes then, or pick up the saxophone?
So what made me go to the classes of saxophone was, well, okay, it's one thing to imagine and fantasize about this. Let's go and see what the reality of the situation actually is. And
But let's get more to the base roots of it, like the organicness, and we'll stick with the saxophone if that's all right.
All right.
So we can come back to the martial arts in a minute. But when you saw that saxophone, because you didn't automatically see yourself like dreaming it, being the greatest saxophone player in the world, commanding a crowd of people, you're just curious about, oh, can I touch it? Is that? Do you know what I mean? Sort of like, oh, can I just?
Well, it
you
looks
just
quite
you
cool.
just
There's
playing.
buttons,
It's
yeah.
almost childlike.
Yeah.
I think play is hugely underestimated. I think playing is one of the biggest, especially when it comes to creativity.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that, oh, what's that do? That goes on there, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Oh, what happens when I just do this? yeah, exactly. Ow! Like, do you know what I mean? Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's sort of like, that's the playing creativity are kind of synonymous. Do you know what I mean? And that's not sort of like, it's less industrious than you have to dream it and be it and do it and go get it type.
Yeah. But
Do you know what I mean? It's more kind of ethereal. It's more kind of like. Oh,
But I think that's true. I think that's true of everything. That the industrious element comes in when you decide that you're going to try and get better and better and better at it, because then you have to have a plan. Then you have to have, like, I'm going to do X amount of hours a day, because there's a physical element to it, and there's also a repetition element to it. So I cannot expect to get good enough to play Baker Street the way I can play it right now if I don't put those hours in, that time in, because I just physically won't be able to do it.
But talking about, again, that's later on. Talking about the initial circumstances that are conducive to having a behaviour, that are positive behaviours that ultimately end up being, good investments of your life,
Yeah.
and aiming towards a greater good, as opposed to trying to protect a fear or staying away from something that's bad, or even become bad yourself. Sort of like, what's the differentiation between those two parts? That's what I'm trying to, sort of like the seed that's different, because it's not born in, you can dream it, you can do it, because that's not how things tend to pan out, like you mentioned. It's more about curiosity. It's more about thinking, oh, I like this, I like that, let's see what happens when I do that, and being curious.
So there's this. I think the difference between there's probably a multiple, if you really break it down, a number of reasons why you could end up going either way. But I think the key is a constant state of honesty. Am I actually enjoying this? Is this actually something that?
So following your bliss.
Well, maybe, but am I enjoying
am I
it?
enjoying this?
Right, or am I getting satisfaction? It doesn't have to be enjoying it. Am I getting satisfaction on it? Do I want to carry on pushing to achieve this goal? Am I getting enough out of it, out of the pain and all the other things?
There's no pain at that stage.
Well, not at that stage, but so as we travel along this line.
That's why it's joyous.
Yeah, but as we travel along this line, there are going to be times, particularly if you're, say, learning to do a marathon or something, when it is going to get pretty uncomfortable. And you do have to keep pushing past.
Let's stick to one story. Let's stick to playing the saxophone. Because
Okay.
that's something that you can relate to from
Okay.
personal experience.
So look.
Let's turn this so it's easier for you to make
Look,
notes.
so, and I think what you can say is you have a starting point, an idea. I want to play the saxophone. I see a saxophone for whatever reason. I get it in my head that it'd be a good idea to go play the saxophone, right? That's okay. That's your seed. Your seed is you have this idea. I want to sing. I want to play the saxophone. I want to do whatever. Doesn't matter what it is, right? So then you step forward.
But this is you analysing it in retrospect. Sort of like, but if you told me the story of what happened, it might be different to your analysis of what happened.
Okay, yeah, but what happened. So what happened was.
Yeah, so you're go on. Then,
Okay,
go on.
so
Just
what
tell me
happened
the
was.
story, then we'll find out
Yeah,
the common
I picked up the
denominator.
saxophone.
No, but first of all, you had to go back before then. So you walked in. What was it? A class?
I don't remember. I must have heard a saxophone at some point.
Right, so you heard a saxophone.
I don't know. I can't.
Yeah.
The thing is, I can't remember. I can't
It was
remember.
that long ago, yeah.
It was that long ago, and I was 14, 15 or something. But
whose saxophone was it? Where was it? That kind of thing.
then I was interested in music. I'd already been a drummer and played drums quite a lot. So I'd obviously heard perhaps more music than your average 12, 13, 14-year-old would have done. And at some point thought, I quite like that. I don't know, I can't remember. That's the thing, I can't remember it. I can't remember why I made that decision. But I can remember very, very vividly. I can see in my mind's mind, seeing this battered saxophone on a shelf and thinking, that looks so cool.
right, that's the first step. That looks so cool. So all this other shit is just really, that looks so cool. And
That looks so cool. I wonder if I can touch it. Mr.
that's what you think
Garrett,
when you see a hot girl walking down the street. That looks so cool. I wonder if I can touch it.
Yeah. Then.
I wonder. There you go. I wonder.
Yeah, I wonder.
So that's almost like a dream, like, isn't it?
Well, maybe, but here's what happens next. It's not just a motivational
Let's
quote.
go. Yeah, let's go.
So then what happens
that
next
was
is,
cool. I wonder if I can touch
Mr.
it.
Garrett, can I have a go at that thing? Yeah, of course. If you come back at lunchtime, what we'll do is we'll get it down and we'll have a little 20-minute play with it. And I've got some reads, they're not great, but
Now, can I just stop you there? Sorry to interrupt, because I really want to
Yeah.
break this down, right? So that's your first thought, because these are positive thoughts.
yeah.
These are inquisitive. These are like, oh, that looks cool. I wonder if I can touch it. What was it? Who was the teacher? Sorry,
Mr. Garrett.
I thought you said Mr. Garrison, like from South Park.
No, Mr. Garrett.
So Mr. Garrett. So you asked for permission because you respected it. You respected that the object wasn't yours, because if it was piece by, I just split this back. So you respected. There was a respect there. Do you know what I mean?
I guess
And
so, yeah.
there was asking for permission. So it was sort of like, because there's somebody else there. So yeah, the next thing was and
So-
he arranged a time and a place for you to
so
interact with this.
Come back at lunchtime. we'll have a crack at. And he was a very passionate and positive teacher. And if he saw a seed of he would.
Whereas if you turn around to you and said, no, that's not yours, you can never look at a saxophone and imply
probably
that
never, yeah.
you can never touch it, you'll never be the greatest saxophone player at weddings. And you're like, oh my god, like, do you know what I mean? No, but if he'd have said no, that would have changed the trajectory.
Yeah,
maybe.
possibly.
Maybe. You might have found another way around it.
Maybe been better, maybe worse. But he definitely installed a positive
Influence. He
influence.
helped you towards the desired outcome, which was
Yeah.
to just have a look at this instrument.
He said, "Okay, well, let's see what we can do with that. There you go. That's how you blow it. That's what you do." And I vaguely remember having a lesson with him, and then I had more lessons, and then
Because you can do it and think, oh, I like this, or you do it and think, I don't like this, and
Yeah.
then you don't do it. And I find that if liking it is greater than the problems that occur in order to learn it are greater, then you can learn it more readily.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like your capacity to. So just liking something is a big thing.
yeah. So
Do what you like.
So I guess at this inception
I'm
point,
trying to make it simple.
at the inception point, there's a level of honesty of, do I really like it because I like it and I'm being honest, even if that means. So here's the thing: it wasn't actually that cool at the time. So I was basically potentially putting myself in a place where
You're
I was not going to
sacrificing
be.
coolness.
I was not going to be a cool kid, and that's
Yeah.
not great. And that did happen, that did happen. I wasn't, but I didn't really care. So I was like, yeah, I mean, I cared about being bullied, but I didn't care about, but I still liked doing what I was doing, and that was okay, right? So I think there's this level of honesty of, am I really doing this because I really genuinely enjoy it and I just want to do it and I'm just going to do it anyway? Or am I doing it because of another motivation, like I want to be like Taylor Swift or whoever and be famous? Not necessarily understanding what all the implications of that are. Because most people who are super famous will tell you that it is not a bed of roses and that there are probably many more downsides than there are upsides.
I mean, Victoria Beckham's one of those people that's come out and said, look, I just wanted to be famous for the sake of being famous. I didn't care what I did.
Yeah.
And she's quite open and honest about it.
But in a sense, that's why it worked.
Yeah, I wanted to be like Daz, she said, I think the quote was. It's sort of like, she wanted to be like a brand. She wanted to, and so you got the Beckhams, so all the Spice Girls, or whatever it is, but they're her different brands.
But isn't it weird that
She doesn't have to be the greatest singer in the world, she doesn't have to be this, that, the other, but she's created a good, an identifiable brand.
But in a
and
sense,
monetised it.
the reason it worked is because it was authentic.
Mm.
Yeah. Although by definition she's kind of not authentic.
Well, she's played her role.
She's played the role that she said, no, look, this is my thing. I'm really into being a brand. So I'm going to be a brand, right? And that's it. And so in a sense, her pursuit was a very authentic pursuit.
But
she was never pretending to be anything. She goes, no, this is what I am. I'm a brand.
And I think that's a good question to ask, and might be a good replacement for the dream it you can be it. What is the role that's required for the? Let me just think about this. Like, who do you need to become to get what you want? Sort of like, what role do you need for your goal?
Yeah.
So because that's more inquisitive. So that's not telling somebody a statement. You can dream it, you can be it. That's kind of implying that you can do this kind of a thing. Whereas this is asking a question. It's saying, what role do you need to take on in order to achieve your goal? That's a better question.
Yeah.
Because firstly, it's a question.
It's not as attractive.
It's not saying no, because it's no. But you think about it, but it's asking the brain a question. When you do that, it starts coming up with the necessary answers, as opposed to trying to tell you something that you don't really believe, that you're not really. It's just kind of food for thought, and it's not really going to inspire you much. Whereas if you take it from a statement into a question and make it applicable to you personally, what role do you need to have in order to attain your goal? That's a very specific. Wow. Now it's more difficult. It's not cliched. It's more difficult to shake off. But we've had to do all this in order to come up with this, because that's looking at going back to the beginning again. You're taking all that. How can we put this into here? Well, we're all acting out a story. We're all playing a part, and we picked up on one of your pet peeves of the Facebook quotes that we stumbled upon, and we talked about the transformation process and what it takes to be one thing to, and how can you instigate it? Well, you can do what you like, but if you're going to do what you like, and so that's the goal, is to do what you like.
Yes.
And then who do you need to become to do what you like?
Yeah.
And are you prepared to do that? And
Yeah.
But if you're doing it, you're not even asking these questions because you're just doing it.
And so the motivation, in other words, why you're doing
it's kind of anti-motivation, isn't it?
Yeah, because it comes back to, is this really your story?
It kind of questions you before you get a chance to explore.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to touch that?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, why wouldn't I?
And think about it, right? So was I ever not going to be a musician? I don't even remember thinking I was going to be a musician. It was just assumed that's what everybody did. I just assumed everybody would want to do it, and that's how it is. That's the word. No, when I say that, I didn't actually assume everybody wanted to do it. I just assumed that it was completely normal, and that why wouldn't you want to be a musician? You know, it just never crossed my mind as to why you wouldn't just do that.
It's kind of like following the yellow brick road, isn't it? You kind of like you're following what you like. You're following your desire.
It was never an intent. It was never like, oh, I'll do it and then I'll get famous and whatever. Because I'm not famous. And to be fair, I don't think I'm really very interested in being famous.
No, I think anonymity is highly.
If I'm completely honest,
anonymity is a good thing.
Particularly in this day and age.
It's better to just be rich.
Why
be famous?
Filthy rich would be great.
Yeah.
But well, would it? I don't know. But certainly the is it my story? And this is definitely my story, and all the things that occurred afterwards. But I think the problem, I did not have social media to contend with when I was making these decisions. And I didn't have the peer pressure that's there to make when I was making these decisions in the same way.
I think it's a big thing. There's gone from being where you go in the playground and you mess around and you see what's out there and you just experiment with what is and that playful creativity, and you make mistakes and you fall over and bump your knee and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's very much almost like AI is taking over. Like everyone's trapped in on their phones. Like kids are on the tablets. It's sort of like they're not going out and experimenting and playing and getting rough in the mud and all that kind of stuff and seeing what life's about.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a very contrived, and it's a very indoctrinated view of the world with the way in which social media is set up and all that kind of that online world. So yeah, it's easy to indoctrinate that mind that way, whereas when you're in the real world you don't have time to, because you're just too busy reacting to and just being whatever is.
Yeah. And so I think the because of the nature of the way we're influenced now, that lots of people are disappointed because they're trying to be something that they just are not, because they think they should. It's not their story.
Yeah,
that's why they're disappointed.
And you alluded that to earlier when you said, "Is that really your dream?"
Yeah. Is that really your dream? Is that really your story, or is that what you think your story should be? Because that's what you think will make you popular, and that's what you think will make you famous and rich, and that you think that famous and rich people have a great time and it's all brilliant. Well, don't know. And also, will it make you happy regardless of whether you're famous or rich? Because do you really want to spend the time required putting the training in or the whatever in? Now, if you're doing it because you love it and it is your story, then you won't notice the time.
Whereas if you're doing what you like,
Yeah, you won't
The
notice
acting,
it. There is no
the
time.
act in itself is its own reward.
Yeah.
And it's going at the rate of which you like it.
Yeah.
And when you don't like it, you stop it.
No time.
So there's no discipline, there's no motivation, there's no dream, you're just getting rid of all that, and you're just being with what is, and you're just doing what you like, and you're just seeing, and just whatever manifests itself will manifest itself.
Yeah.
So then the greater question becomes sort of like, well, why can't we just go out and do what we like? Why is that so difficult? Because there's other people. Because we can't just do what we like. I can't just go out and, I'll just take this. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think,
So how do we, because this is with the order and chaos thing, how do we restrain that? Sort of like, okay, we want to be free, but it's got to be kind of restricted freedom.
Well, and this is, see, I'm yawning because it was a late night. But I'm not yawning because I'm bored. I'm just yawning because I'm tired. But here's the thing, and this comes down to, so I can sit here might be a saxophone player or do whatever I'm doing, and that's okay. And because people don't break down the door and steal all my stuff, right? In other words, and I'm quite happy for people to be runners and sprinters, and loads of cyclists come by here all the time, and all of that because they're doing their thing, right? And I don't get out in the road and go, stop fucking cycling around here. You're making a noise and it's annoying. Don't like it. Because
I'm listening to spinning wheels.
Yeah, I'm quite so I live and let live, right? I'm letting them do their thing, but there's a limit to that, which is the rights and responsibilities issue of, well, look, if I want to be what I want to be, then other people need to let me be that, right? And so on with cyclists and everybody else, right? And so there comes a point where, if you want to go out and, well, I guess it's why you want to do it. I mean, why would you want to go out and just like steal everybody's stuff and punch them or whatever it might be? I mean, if you really want to do, I guess, and there are people that do that, aren't there? But why?
So do you think there's forces in place preventing from other people just doing what they like?
I don't know. Say that again.
Do you think there are forces in place preventing other people to be what they like? Like, because we're saying do what you like. Well, we can't do it. Like, why not? Because there are forces. I mean, you're restricted by all sorts of natural forces. So like you can't jump to the moon, but you can jump. So you know what I mean? Like sort of like you can't swim like a fish, but you can sort of learn to swim in the water.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's restrictions. So nature restricts you just by the fact that you're in a human body restricts you. Then you've got your other people and their expectations and the culture. Like, oh, there's certain religious cultures. There's certain just national cultures. There's sort of like, oh, you can't say that around here, kind of a thing.
Yeah, but that's all down to
family culture. But it is still a reality of the world that people have got to exist in. So when we're looking at this, when we're taking this, this idea is great, but how are we going to implement that practically into the world? So one way is by saying, instead of dreaming it and being it, what you could say is do what you like. That's kind of what we've synthesised this all down to. Like, follow what you desire, what your passions are, and just be kind of like curious and follow what you like doing, and and then that will be its own reward, and you'll have an enjoyable, meaningful life in the short term.
Yeah.
But then the thing is that, and I think that's why solitude is so great when you're learning an instrument, or if you are learning something, surround yourself with other people that are trying to help you get towards your goal, and they're playing their role towards that goal. So you have kind of a mastermind group around you, it might be like me. I have a magic club, so I come up and I think, here's a trick. Oh, here's a move you could do. Like, they're all trying to be collaborative to achieve that shared aim.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would be great if there were more musicians or magicians in the world, and people giving up, because people like music and like to be entertained. So that's a worthy goal. But then there might be other goals whereby it's not conducive to do, because it's sort of like it's other conflicts. Do you know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Well,
it's like, because why wouldn't people just help you all the time anyway? Because they've got something they want to achieve, and this is where the competition and the hierarchy come in. Oh, I want this place. Well, I want this place, and that's where the competition comes in.
So, I guess,
because everybody wants to do what they like, but we can't all just do what we like, because that wouldn't be beneficial to everybody.
Do what they like, though. I mean, what do you mean by that? So I guess there's I mean, this is quite a big. There's a big expansive amount of stuff you can take from this. So if we just say like, then everybody can just do whatever they want, right? Anything, right? Well, I want that girl over there. I'm just gonna go and kiss her. Right. Well, okay.
That's different because what you're doing there is you're making somebody else your goal.
Right.
Whereas we're talking about like something that is like a goal that's like achievable unto itself, like an inanimate object.
But that hits it. What you just said, just hits it straight and on the head, and I'll explain why. So I've been sitting here quietly thinking, okay, why can't you just go out and do whatever you like, whatever you like? Well, look, maybe you can.
I want to go and walk out naked in the street.
Right,
like,
which
you know what I
I
mean?
think in this country you can do legally.
But you know what I mean? It's sort of like...
Yeah, right, but here's the thing. So I think within the context becomes the issue, and I'll explain why, right? So, so supposing you want to do what you like and you want to run around, naked, for instance, okay, right? Supposing you do want to run around naked. Well, first of all, you could go out into the street and be naked and walk around and stuff like that, but the probability is that that's going to attract some attention, and some of it will be healthy and a lot of it might not be.
But I'll be free and I'll be happy.
Well, and if
my freedom and happiness is paramount.
Right.
Because
okay.
I'm doing what I like.
Okay.
And if everyone else has a problem with it, that's their problem.
And that would be true.
But then they make it your problem. Because I phone the police and saying there's a man running about in the street trying to kiss girls naked.
Right. Well, look.
So he's doing what he likes.
If you're just running around in the street naked, there's a very strong chance that actually nothing will happen.
Depends which street you're in. If you're doing it in London, it might be a bit of an issue.
Well, look, so what I'm really trying to say is if you're not breaking in this country, if you are not breaking the law, so if there is no law that says you can't be naked on the town hall square in Nottingham, right, then basically outside of somebody deciding to interact with you and say I disagree with you standing there naked,
get attacked.
You're going to get attacked, right? But the police certainly won't do anything about it if it's not illegal. They might stand there and...
But it's not normal, is it?
Right, and it's not normal, and mostly people don't do it, right? Because they don't want to be naked. Now, some people do.
Well, fear of being naked publicly is a big fear for some people.
Right, okay. Well, for a lot of people, I'd say for a majority.
But that's why going and doing it would be overcoming that fear, wouldn't it?
If you wanted to overcome that fear.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Like, and so what happens...
Like why you want to jump out of an aeroplane.
What happens generally then is that people go and think, okay, well let's go and find lots of other people that want to be naked and we'll have a nudism colony. Right? So then you can do what you want in a safe...
now, and that's what I like.
In a space...
It's almost like childlike thinking. It's like, I want to do what I want. I want it now. Why can't I... Like, it's just not understanding. Why can't I have what I want?
Well,
I want
and then this is rights and responsibilities, right? Okay. So, here's the thing. You can do what you want to do. If you really want to go and walk around naked, you go find a nudist colony, you can walk around naked all day long, and everybody will leave you alone. I think it's great, right?
Can I hit people that I don't like?
So, can you hit people that you don't like? Well, look, okay, you don't like them.
Yes.
For sure. That doesn't mean that you're right or they're wrong, and they're wrong, or vice versa.
Yeah, but when I do what I like to do, I like to hit people when I'm feeling aggressive. When I'm naked in the street. So I just went around punching people, like some kind of Grand Theft Auto.
Well,
so
yeah,
pulling people out of cars
and
just driving off with the car. That's what I like to do. I mean, that's why people have these games, so they can live out these fantasies in Grand Theft Auto.
Right.
That's why people go to the cinema. That's why there's this fake reality, so that people can go and live out their fantasies in a safe environment.
Okay, but here's where that goes. Yes, absolutely, and that's it. That's why you have the avatars of the games and things. Because the bottom line is, if you go and actually walk naked,
shoot people, or
and
jump out of a helicopter, you're going to hurt your knees.
Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. If you go running naked in the middle of Nottingham City Centre and you go punch somebody, there's a very strong chance.
And drag some out of the car and drive off with it. That's what they do in Grand Theft Auto.
And there's a very strong chance
drive it off a rooftop
that you're going to get a response to that, which you are not going to want. They are going to punch you back, and or you're going to get arrested, and or you're because you're inflicting yourself on everybody else. Now you could argue that if I'm playing the saxophone in a place where people don't like music, don't like the saxophone, I'm doing the same thing. I'm being offensive in a sense, but at the same time, it's like, well, okay, so perhaps then it's this rights and responsibilities idea of, well, okay, if I want to play the saxophone, I'll go to a place where I know people like to hear to play the saxophone, because then I'm just being kind of generally respectful to people that don't. You know, do I have to be respectful to people that don't? Not really, but why not? Because then why bother winding them up? You know, it's like, why bother winding them up? You know, they don't want to listen to it, so fine. Which you get on, if I do adverts on Facebook, there'll be some troll that goes, nobody wants to hear this shit. I'll say, well, you don't want to hear it, and I'm really sorry that the advert got to you, but I can't control that, so, you know, just don't look again. You know,
So
that's fine.
say if you're the person you know now, and you're like, I'm going to do what I like, and I like that car, and I'm going to take that car, and now you've been arrested because you've stolen a car, right?
Right.
So it's the repercussions of doing what you like.
Well, also
Because we have laws, because we have...
Also, you're not respecting the fact that it's somebody else's car.
That's a bit egotistical, isn't it? Is it really all our car? Like,
Yeah, it
the
is.
spiritual plane.
Well, no, but you can't allow spiritualism to become narcissism, which is what that would be. You know, you'd be allowing the spiritualism to become narcissistic. That you can't say that's age. That's free. That gives you free rein to do whatever you like.
So there's ownership.
Well, look, there's other people's.
Other people. That's another reason why you can't just do what you like. And there's also the person that's going to suffer, your future self that's going to suffer those consequences. A bit like when you eat all that chocolate and then the next day you're getting fat.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, well, I don't want to be that guy, so you probably shouldn't then
Eat the
go and do
chocolate.
what you like.
Yeah. Necessarily, because
Yeah,
it might
because
not.
it's going to be bad for you, the society, and your future self.
Yeah. So.
Well, I
I
said
mean,
you twice.
so the problem with all this, it gets very grey, right? So just because of story, right? It comes back to story again. So my story is that I don't believe in sex before marriage, and I don't believe in eating meat, and
Are you vegan?
no.
Oh,
That's
this
not
is
my
just
story. I'm being
hypothetical.
hypothetical.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. So supposing my story is I don't believe in sex before marriage. I don't believe that means then, because my story, I've been brought up in an environment where those things are the truth. They're the belief that you don't eat meat and you don't have sex before marriage. Basically, anybody that does those things is contravening my belief and therefore my kind of law, if you like, and therefore they're offending me if they eat meat and have sex before marriage, right? Now the problem with that is, do I need to pamper to your belief? Because it is only your story and belief, right? That says that you shouldn't have sex before marriage and you shouldn't eat meat, right? And I think, where I was brought up, that sex before marriage and eating meat's fine. In fact, it's an imperative. You should do it. This is the way that my belief system was created, right? So then this is where the problem occurs with when you have two stories, all right? Conflicting stories that say, you're offending me because you eat meat, or you're offending me because you don't eat meat. Well, you're offending me because you have sex before marriage, you're offending me because you don't have sex before marriage. Well, where do you take that? The bottom line is that you have to then find, within all these stories, a common thread of morality, I guess.
But that duality is present even in the individual, because your brain, one half of you wants to do this, the other half doesn't.
Yeah, so lots of
So
times
you're
you'll
always
get,
in constant
I want to eat the
internal
chocolate.
conflict.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, and what the right hand side of the brain is in conflict with the left hand side of the brain. Because
Okay.
it's operating different.
Yeah. So look,
You didn't even need other people. That just makes it even more complicated.
well, absolutely, but
Just living with yourself is difficult enough sometimes, let alone living with other people as well.
and so the real answer to all these questions is, well, lots of people do what they like, and it's not legal or necessarily generally publicly acceptable, you know, like say massacring a load of kids in a school or something like that. You know, people do that kind of thing.
I like the way you take everything to extremes.
Well, but you might as well, because that's the point that makes the point, right? You know, that's it. If you take it to an extreme, by definition, you're proving how far you've got to take it, right? So clearly, for the parents of those children, for those children, that is not a good outcome. And it's not right. You know, how can you argue morality? Why should they be? Why them?
So we can do what we like, as long as, and again, this is very basic shit. It's sort of what we can do what we like, as long as we're not hurting anyone, including ourselves.
It's a little bit like the iRobot.
I haven't seen that.
So and this is worth exploring, and you know, we're going to end up filtering all this and having to I think what's going to happen is we'll listen to this and go, no, we need to refine these ideas and say, yeah, okay, that was a good idea we had there, and yeah. So, iRobot, and I can't think what the laws are now. There are 3 laws in iRobot. One is that the robot cannot do anything to harm the human, and the second law is that the robot can't allow anything to happen to the human that's at detriment. What is it?
Detriment to itself.
Detriment to the human, even above its own
3
needs.
laws of iRobot.
And I'm putting this together. These are the laws of robotics. The 3 laws, and they're called Asimov's laws, by the looks of it. Asimov's laws of robots, and they are: the first law, a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. Okay?
Wow, it can't even take in action.
It can't allow, through inaction,
Yeah,
allow it to
from
come to
not
harm.
doing anything. Wow.
The second law, a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law.
Oh, that's virtually everything, because you'd need to know the consequences of everything.
But this is why these are great laws.
Or
Third law, a
terrible
robot
laws.
must protect its own existence as long as such protectiveness does not conflict with the first or second laws.
Well, they're all building on each other's laws.
But the reason that they're kind of not talking necessarily about robots is that you could argue in some sense that those laws are how we behave as human beings. So what they're kind of saying is you can do anything so long as, so I can do anything so long as I don't injure you, right? Or through inaction as far as I possibly can, of course, because that's so
It's service mode.
in other words, if I know you're gonna, if I can see a car coming and you're standing in the middle of the road and you can't see it, if I just go, well, I'm not gonna do anything, and the car hits you and you get killed, well, that's not very nice, is it? That's not very responsible. Whereas if I go, Doug, move,
Yeah.
I'm taking action to help you.
He was telling me what to do, the social justice warrior.
Yeah,
How do you...
I wanted to say, no. That's, I don't buy that
I do.
bullshit.
Because at what point is something a command for somebody's own well-being?
All right.
Because kindness is what social justice warriors use
All right,
to
no.
exert their power and control.
Right, but all I'm saying is, Doug, there's a car coming. You can take it or leave it now. If you want to get hit by the car.
That's it. But in the moment, you probably won't know how to frame it correctly. It's like, and some people, there was a kid on a train track, and the guy got him off the train track, and luckily it got him off. But not everybody would do that, even though it's the right thing to do.
Mm.
And is it the right thing to do if you're sacrificing yourself? Now you're both dead, and you've got a family.
Well, that's...
Do you know what I mean? So
that-
it's sort
well,
of like,
but-
what is the right thing to do? Because everything's good in retrospect, but you don't know what the consequences of your actions are going to be, so it's very difficult to make a decision.
The second law,
Okay?
a robot must obey or give. But look, all I'm really saying is look, that perhaps there is a triad of us all existing.
Have you seen iRobot?
Yeah.
What was the moral of the story? Because obviously it's going to challenge these 3 laws, isn't it? And the character's going to go through a journey, or the robot's going to go through a journey and discover something. So
Yeah.
what's the moral of iRobot with regards to the laws? Are they workable, or did they learn from at the end of the film that we can't obey by these laws? What was the kind of outcome of iRobot? I haven't seen it at all. What was the message? What was it trying to say?
So, I'm reading it there because it's reminding me that there can be unintentional consequences of how you can apply those laws.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. The long and short of it is there can be very unintentional consequences. The laws seem solid on face value. If you make a robot that can basically be like a human, but it can't do this and it can't do that and it can't do the other and it must do this and it must do that, it must do that. It's in under certain circumstances what happens next, and that's a little bit like you go with the train, right? And the kid, should I save them or is it?
But by the time you've thought about it, it's too late anyway.
Or well, maybe
You kind of actually have to act on impulse. You either do it or you don't.
yeah, and that's going to
It's
come
a
down
fight
to
or flight thing, yeah.
who you are. But
It kind of feels like we're playing with matter and we're seeing how things play out. And it's kind of an experiment.
Yeah.
Like, we're experimenting with life. Because the moment you make it rigid and say life is supposed to be this way, and it turns out not to be, that's when you encounter all the problems. Whereas the moment you say life is how it is, and I'm going to have a play about and see how things play out, that's a lot more kind of a easygoing kind of thing to way of being.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of devil's advocate.
But you get rid of that rigidity.
Yeah. Say that again.
You get a lot of... I love the way you asked me to read, so I have to remember exactly what... That's not what I said. I'm like a walking quote of myself. You get rid of the rigidity.
Yeah.
So things can just play.
Yes. So, I mean, here's the thing. Look.
There is no right or wrong. Only the present moment.
Well, this is big question. This is big questions, right? These are big. I mean, look. Can I just do what I want?
And play about with things and see things how I'll play out. As long as I'm not going out of my way to intentionally hurt anyone, might be a better way of putting it. Because I think intentions are a big thing, and I think a lot of the problems are in miscommunication, and somebody doesn't intend for things to pan out a certain way, but they kind of do.
Yeah.
And they don't want to take responsibility for their part in it.
No.
And so I think a lot of the time, whereas if you go out and first do no harm and don't have any bad intentions, then that's a good playing field to start out from. And now when you do what you like, it'll be coming from a place of more authentic being, as opposed to a place from, oh, I'm going to go out and enforce my will on the world and do what I like, because that's a different intention, it has a different energy.
Okay.
It's kind of more authoritarian.
Yeah, okay, I'm kind of...
Whereas if you go and, like, literally like I think we've got I think this is probably where the podcast's going to go, what can we learn from children? Because that's why people love children. That's why we kind of look like... Because, like, children are very intelligent, and the older you grow, the more clever you become, because you know stuff.
Clever and intelligence are quite different things.
Well, I might be using the wrong word.
No,
but I'm going to say naturally.
Right.
I might be.
No, you're right.
Well, let me just finish this thought. So, like, children are naturally intelligent. They're aware. They're in the moment. They crawl when they're hungry. Like, they're literally telling you what they want. They're doing what the fuck they like. They don't give a shit. They don't know. Like, they do. And they're hyper intelligent. They pay close attention. And the older we get, when we get stuck in our models, we get more clever, but we get less intelligent, because our intelligence, because we're kind of, and that rigidity is where we kind of say. So it might be a good case of thinking, how can we become more childlike in essence, so that we enjoy the world the way that a child does, in a more sophisticated way? Because obviously if you just acted like a child, you need to parent yourself in some kind of way. So you need to be two people. You need to be the child that can go out and explore and play and be frivolous, and and you need the parent to be able to provide that structure and that stable environment where you trust yourself to be able to go out and do that safely. Or maybe not safely, but sort of like in accordance with what you're trying to achieve, or something of that nature. Sort of like...
Yeah.
So we need two people. And it's the conversation with those two people where it makes it complicated, and it's difficult to just be yourself and discover who you are, because you're the thing that keeps those two people in good harmony together, that keeps that relationship between the parent that you have inside of yourself and the child, the one that wants to explore new territory, and the parent that wants to keep everything orderly and certain. So the certainty and uncertainty, and the sort of like how that plays out, and it's the thing that borders those in to ensure that they have a good relationship between each other, so the parent's not being too dominating and the child's not taking over the parent.
Yeah.
The order and the chaos, the certainty and the uncertainty. And so it's a case of thinking, how can we best improve this relationship between these two entities that live inside of all of us and act themselves out in the world?
So how about this for a phrase? I can do what I want within the confines of my best interests and your best interests.
What if we talk to ourselves like we are a child? So like we get up every day and we kind of say, right, okay, Doug, you can do this now. No, and literally treat ourselves like children. I'm just spitballing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be a way of doing it, because you talk to your child like a child. So, so you need to brush your teeth. I don't want to, but you have to do it. As you're gonna have a stinky breath, and you get.
It's consequence. Nobody wants to kiss you.
You got to go to school. I don't want to go to school.
Yeah,
You have to go to school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you kind of got to make yourself do the things that you don't want to do.
And that's what I. So that's what
Well,
I've
at the
been
same
doing.
time, being that rebellious teenager or that child that says why, because you have to know why you're telling yourself. Well, why do I have to go? Because I think school's quite a toxic place, to be fair. I think we've had this conversation before, and I think it would be better, especially nowadays, to learn in better ways, to get with groups of people that you have common interests with, meet over the internet, and grow groups that way. Because then people will be spending time and energy in doing what they want to learn instead of what they're told they should learn, and be told when they're getting it wrong. Do you know what I mean? But going back to the thing is that we kind of need that conversation or that communication, that connection with our internal self. And I think once we get that relationship good, that we can then help manifest that in the world, because we're resonating in harmony between those two things of certainty and uncertainty, order and chaos, and the parent and the child.
Yeah, and that's what.
And that's mature.
Yeah. So
and that's being responsible.
So you have the side of you that's playful and experimental and wants to go out and do whatever, but there absolutely has to be some level of moderation and responsibility in how you do that, and
it's
how
shifting
much
gears.
How much so you say, okay, now we get the freedom. So I will use the skydiving is a great analogy of that, because it's a really obvious thing, and I'll say why. So when you go do your skydiving course, you spend a whole day basically learning everything that can go wrong, and they really make you learn this stuff. They're saying, we're gonna have an amazing time.
Protocols for failure.
We're gonna jump out of this plane, and it's gonna be freaking brilliant. But here is what you need to know if it goes wrong, as far as we know, because this is what happened when this went wrong, and this guy did this, and this is what happened when this went wrong, and this is what, right, and you get drilled, and you have to repeat and go, okay, so how can I go do this really dangerous thing, but with the benefit of previously learned knowledge and experience and safety, and how can I make this really dangerous thing as safe as I possibly can make it without making it so safe there's no point doing it.
Yeah, protocols for failure.
Yeah. So what can go wrong? Well, these things can go wrong, and something like skydiving, and generally speaking, for the most part, they're the same kind of 7 or 8 things that generally go wrong.
How fast do you fall when you're going towards the
100 depends, but your average flat fall is around about 120, 25 miles an hour, something like that. Flat, belly to earth.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And you'll accelerate to that speed. I think it's in around 7 seconds from out the door. You know, your acceleration rate to terminal velocity. I think it's about. It possibly varies, but it's about 7.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because if you were to drive your car down the road at 125 miles an hour and someone was to come out in front, it's the same thing happening. But you wouldn't think that. You think jumping out of an aeroplane is more dangerous than driving a car. But when really,
no, that's
if you can drive a car at 125 miles an hour, do you know what I mean? It's sort of
Well,
like,
it is
or a
way-
motorbike. A motorbike is a better example because
Yeah.
you're more vulnerable.
Yeah, and you can.
So a car comes out, a tractor comes out, pulls out as you're going 120 miles on a motorbike.
Yeah. Also, if you're head down and you're doing what they call free flying, so I'm talking about belly to earth. You know, the standard skydiver pose. If you go head down, obviously the surface area is dramatically reduced. You go a lot faster.
Yeah. What speeds can you reach up to?
I've not done free flying, but from my understanding is that you would generally be heading more towards 150, 60, 70, those kinds of territories. And again, it depends how you fly. So if you go literally straight
More like
head
a dart.
down,
Yeah.
there are people that do that. I can't think what they call it now because I never really got into it. I think it's called speed flight. So their aim is to go as fast as possible by getting as little surface area and get themselves straight and rigid and
Like
go.
a dart, as
dart,
opposed
yeah,
to
they-
belly flopping into the.
and I think that's 200 plus. You
Really?
the territory you're getting to. So you got to be quite careful with that because obviously you're going to get there pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I get
A wrong move.
from 13,500 feet. I would averagely, if I was pulling at say 3,500 feet, in other words, deploying my parachute, get around about 60 seconds free fall time. That would be the average.
Sorry, how much free fall time?
60 seconds. About a minute.
60
A minute.
Minute free fall time.
Yeah, from 13,500 feet ish. And that's assuming I'm pulling it around about 4 to 3,500 feet, something like that. We should be the average height. Bear in mind that kind of speed is 5 seconds per 1,000 feet.
Right.
So by the time you get to 3,000 feet, you're 15 seconds from the ground at terminal velocity. So you need to get things sorted out pretty quick. But, if you follow the rules, and this is what I'm saying, this is back down to this. Is it arguably very chaotic and kind of, why on earth would you jump out of a plane? Well, I can tell you why, because it's pretty damn thrilling stuff. On lots of levels, spiritually and otherwise. It really kind of connects you to.
And it's probably safer than driving a motorbike.
Way safer than driving a motorbike, statistically.
Yeah, well, just
is. You're not.
Yeah.
You know,
the road surface, the weather conditions. You've got the things coming out, all sorts of stuff.
When you do, so the thing about say skydiving is you do it under very specific conditions. So right now there's very little wind. There's a bit of wind, and
it's cold.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The sky is clear.
Yeah, it looks
it's
great.
a nice, clean, crisp space to do that in. We can see
it's
everything.
Weather dependent.
Yeah, but so we only go out when the conditions are good and they're the right conditions, and we only go out with other people that we trust.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And are safe, and we're safe with. And I can tell you one thing: when you get on a plane, if somebody's is known for being a bit unpredictable. There's a very bad mood in that. Everybody's like,
on edge.
Somebody will go, watch. Yeah. So everybody's watching them, and it will get to the point that the CI, who's always involved, or somebody of authority that's always on that plane, you have what's known as a jump master. The jump master, basically, if I'm JM and I say you're not jumping, then you're not jumping. That's the rule. I don't have to give you any reason. I just say you're not going. I might have to explain myself later for sure, but for whatever reason, if I say you're not, and it happens very, very rarely, because oddly what happens is everybody that's gravitated to it and that stays around for more than 10 minutes, the level of respect,
yes,
and the level of, and this is a really interesting thing. Here's the thing, we're doing something very dangerous. We're jumping out of airplanes, and if anybody does not follow what we've all agreed, there's going to be an accident. If you jump out too early and you open on top of me, and there's loads of videos where people have done that, and it's not right. So we, 13, 14 people in the back of that plane, are all absolutely dependent on each other doing what we say we're going to do. We all want to have fun. We all want to go into that chaos. We all want to get out of this plane and be in the moment, right? But we also know that we can't do that again if we die. So I can have my freedom, I can have my chaotic moment, but if I do not do what I said and everybody else complies with the rules that we've decided that allow us to have as much freedom as possible, but without killing each other so we can go do it again, then we have to have constraints. It has to be that if it's this windy, then we have this much separation between when we jump out the door and all those other things, and everybody has to follow that. If the jump master says you're not jumping, then you trust that there's a very good reason why he's told you that you may not understand.
So you can do what you like as long as it's constrained, and that goes back to the...
You can do what you like.
Not hurting anyone, including yourself, intentionally.
Well, because...
Or putting yourself in a position where you can put people in danger.
Well, because if you put people in danger, first of all, you're probably also in danger. In other words, if you go running around the streets of Nottingham naked and you're going to go punching people, well, not only are you putting other people in danger, you're putting yourself in danger. Because one thing that's very likely to happen if you try and punch somebody, that somebody much bigger is going to come along and punch you.
There's going to be retaliation, yeah.
There's going to be retaliation. And so that's not healthy really for anybody unless your aim is to get beaten up. And that's
it just goes back into that parent-child idea that we kind of stumbled upon, which is kind of like, yeah, you can go play, do what you like, jump out an aeroplane, but we need to parent the situation. We need to make sure that everybody's playing by the rules. We need to make sure that the conditions are right. We need to be responsible for this in order to have irresponsibility.
Yeah, so lots of people will tell me, that's mad, you're irresponsible for jumping out of a plane.
Yeah.
I get it all the time, right? And I would argue, because I understand the complexities of what's going on, that there is no irresponsibility. And in fact, when I was having the court case, they tried to say, you're an irresponsible person because you skydive, which backfired. at about 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Because you just highlighted how responsible you would
I
have to be.
I said no. Actually, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
If you're going to take such extreme risks and survive at the time nearly 500 times, then you are not irresponsible, because you'd be dead by now. You are the polar opposite. You are meticulous, careful, thoughtful. There are times when I have not jumped for whatever reason. Something in my kit,
It doesn't feel right.
something's not right. You know what? I can do it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm not going.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk.
Something in my head saying no.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is. So the irresponsible person would go, oh, fuck it. Let's go anyway.
Yeah.
Dead. The responsible person
Or
goes...
eventually dead, because if
Or
you go
eventually.
down that garden path,
Yeah, you get away
oh,
with it.
this will be alright.
Well,
Oh,
what-
that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, it's only jumping out of the plane.
And what happens is you get it, and what happens is you get away with it,
Half
get-
the times you don't.
and then one day you carry on, you push it too far, then you don't get away with it, right? But the point is that the argument is no, the price of entry to being on the edge
Flow
Is-
state, yeah.
in the flow state is also being responsible for yourself and essentially others within that group. Because if you don't, two things will happen. Firstly, nobody wants to play with you, so they won't let you go, oh, that you dick. I mean, basically, there's this thing in skydiving, it's a red pen. And if there's always somebody of responsibility on the plane, the JM, the most senior person with the most experience. And it always comes down to the most experience. And that's given, and that's just known. This person's, and this. So, and if you do something stupid like we all agree at what height we're going to pull our parachute, and unless you have an absolute emergency reason to do it at any other time, you only do it then because you're upset. There's loads of reasons why you have to do that. If you land downwind, if you do all kinds of crazy shit, if an instructor, who there will always be an instructor, says, fuck, you just endangered every fucker on the and your landing pattern, everybody comes up like a left hand pattern, right hand pattern for students, left hand pattern for a smaller canopy, you know, there's you get in, you work together, you all come in at the same way. If you come in, cut across that, and you're creating a potential for a canopy collision or something, and you get a red pen, you're not jumping again. If they write in your book, this person is too fucking dangerous because they are not playing by the rules, and they are putting everybody else in danger, then you're not jumping.
Do you need a license to
Yeah.
jump?
Oh yeah. You need a license. You need insurance. You know, there's a whole. You get two licenses. You get one
whole
from the
sport.
CAA. From the. You get something from the CAA. You get one from the.
What's CAA?
Something air authority. I can't remember
Okay,
now.
yeah.
It's the same people that issue a pilot's license. Basically, you're in airspace. So if I come across an aeroplane, you know,
Do you ever about hitting birds on the way down?
no, it never happens. Birds don't really fly at most of the high altitudes that you.
They do as you get close to the ground.
Yeah, but you're a canopy by then, and then you're quite slow. And
Okay.
no, and birds are just, you know. I've had a hawk.
A hawk, yeah, just comes by.
Fly.
I'm like,
No. Literally, I was like just
I
landing.
suppose they avoid you.
Well, I think he was checking me out. He kind of flew past.
Hey.
He flew past full wingspan, like maybe 7-8 feet in front of me, and he was like with his head like that, going, "Whoa, loving your wings, dude! Like the red, you know." Like he was like, "Go woohoo!"
Yeah.
You know, let's play. It was like he was like playing with it. You know, he was like, "You're a big bird. You're a big bastard." I thought I was the king around here, but look at you, you big cock thing. You know. Anyway, the point is that so back down to can you do what you like? Well, I say yes, but there's a responsibility issue to you and other people around you. So can you do what you like?
There's a
Yes.
duality to that.
There's a duality, because if I just do what I like and that causes you pain and anguish, then you're not going to be happy. Because if you just do what you like and it causes me pain and anguish, well, you know how I'm going to feel.
Well, you might. I mean, this is the other thing. Well, the next thing I'm going to come on to now is emotions. It's like when people regret things because it feels right in the moment, but their judgment's skewed, like because they're too angry and they hit someone, or they're too horny and they sleep with someone they don't want. It could be anything. They're too happy and they go and buy something they shouldn't have done. Sort of like emotions kind of possess you. So how do you trust your own judgment, doing what you like and keeping that parent-child relationship going when emotions possess you and kind of just take over the way?
Yeah, well,
it's I don't like the excuses, but it is true. Is that emotions? If somebody pulls you up on traffic, you go like you just change, and you have to learn to control. You have to learn to parent that side of yourself.
Well, I think you have to be so you have to learn that you have a state that you're in, and that you can and this is where this awareness outside of the watcher has to play a role, has to be vigilant for you, right? So you're in your story, or you're in your flow, or you're in whatever it is that you're in by the time you've decided the story and the beliefs are just not really what it's about.
Yeah.
And you've got the animal that you are emotionally reacting to things.
So you got your story and the animal, yeah.
Right. When the animal wakes up and gets road rage, then what you have to be able to do, or what you have to practice doing, and I practice doing this all the time as it happens, sometimes successfully, and actually recently very successfully, is going, hold on a minute, yeah, I'm getting this, I'm very angry that you've taken the piss out of me and you're cutting me up, or you're trying to belittle me, or you're trying to do whatever it is, right? You because you're angry. And I just say to myself, that person is in the same state. They're already in that state, right? They're angry about something already, right? No, seriously, that's what I say. Yeah. Or they just malevolent, or they just want to hurt me. But
you think so much for other people.
Well, but
you don't know what they think. They might just be going stupid and listening to the music. You don't know.
Yeah, there could be
might
any
not
of those
have even
things.
seen you.
Well, this is my point. It doesn't really matter.
But
right?
what I'm saying, no, it does matter. I think, mate, because not only are you saying they're trying to belittle me, and you're telling yourself something, you're also playing their role as well.
But so my point about all this is that I go, in the end, it doesn't matter what or who or anything that they are, whether they are doing it consciously or unconsciously. I don't need to react to it.
But what I'm saying is, you're constructing this story.
Yeah.
That you're reacting to emotion anyway. So if you just get rid of the story,
Well, yeah,
and just assume that you don't know what they're thinking.
Exactly.
You don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
And that sort of like they might not trying to be belittling, but
Yeah.
in that moment you don't have the opportunity, the space to question that thought, because it happens kind of boom.
Yeah,
like,
but you
happens
do.
so
That's
fast.
Yeah.
There's a small space, and it's about finding that little space in between an event happening and you attaching a story to it, and just going enough for that awareness and that space to be able to choose to react instead of just react.
So if you can have the awareness above that, you can't stop that initial reaction, right? Generally speaking, or it would take a while.
I'd just love to spend time. I'd like to be a fly on the wall, or put him in Big Brother like Eckhart. Just see how he gets on. Stick him on a bloody motorway.
Yeah.
Stick him in a Big Brother house. I'd just love to sit and he's just like,
Yeah.
all Yoda like.
Well,
I'm gonna get this, and that could be like a game show, couldn't it? Who can piss Eckhart Tolle off? Just go and throw apple pies at him and stuff. Oh, you bastard! You went in the present, you hypocrite. Is this your girlfriend? How do you feel now, Eckhart? Pissing off Eckhart. Who can piss him off? Oh, Eckhart, you smell.
Look, and there's there's a whole. There's like Rain Man. We'll do Rain Man and we'll do pissing off Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, I'll get the wig and everything, and then you just throw stuff at me. And
we're gonna make him emotional.
Yeah,
we're
look.
gonna get a reaction out of him.
Look, so yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's why I'm saying all those things because here's the thing: I could go, oh, you're this, oh, you're that, oh, you're the other, or you've just done this, or you've just done that, or you don't care, or you're not thinking, or you're an idiot, or you're fucking whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Like you say, the story, their story, what they're doing, what their intentions are, right? If I get into any of that, I'm fucked. Because they are suddenly attacking me and my emotions take over, right? So, I have the emotional response. Fuck, they just cut me up. And I did this the other day. Somebody did exactly that. Some lorry just literally just drove out in front of him. He was like, I'm a big lorry, fuck you. Maybe he just wasn't looking. Right, but that's what...
You've got your thought, the driver's thought, and the lorry's thought. Fuck you. Like, that's,
I'm the driver of the big lorry.
No, I'm thinking of it like out of cars, Mac. Fuck you.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So those were my initial reactions. That was my initial reaction. Yeah. What the fuck, you... Hold on a minute. whoa, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And then I had that reaction. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say that. Then nobody's that zen, right? Nobody's that zen.
Well, we don't know.
Well, maybe they are.
That's why we need to test it.
So some people might be that zen, right? They might be that fucking sorted that they never react. Okay, and that would be a cool state to be. Possibly not.
That's what I'm
actually.
putting on to, yeah.
Yeah, is that actually is a bit of emotion a good thing? And the answer probably is yes. But let's go back to road rage. So my initial reaction was, "What are you bastard? Hold on a minute." And then what I'm able to do mostly now is go, hold on a minute, whoa, this is silly. Look at yourself and how ridiculous. Even if, right, you're right and he's being a cunt. Excuse my French, that might need beeping out if we have broadcast this. Even if he's being a git, even if he's being a dick, and he's just pulling out to just laugh at you because he can, right? And it's all malevolent and he's just a very angry, nasty person doing all those things. Even if all those things are true, is you raging at them from your little metal box behind them going to have any effect whatsoever?
Yes, he's going to turn around and go, "Oh, thank you, Paul Martin. Thank you for your help and guidance. For having a go at me. I was out of order, actually. I'm sorry.
No.
Please accept my sincere
Because
apologies."
he's not going to hear any of it. There's no point.
Yeah.
Right, so the only person that gets damaged by that is me. Right? So I just have to drop it straight away. I just have to let it go. I just accept it. It is what it is. I mean, nobody died.
But these emotions must serve a purpose.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
If they're instinctual reactions, then they must be there for a reason. So is it wrong to deny them?
Well, I don't know. I mean, are they serving a purpose in that context? Or is that context part
of...
of...
It's fight, isn't it?
Yeah, but are they misfiring?
I think they're misjudging. I think they're creating the wrong story. I mean, like I say, it's all based on stories because you're saying you're trying to belittle him. He might not be trying to belittle you. He might have just been ignorant. He might have just been... He might not have realised what he did.
Yeah.
So it might not be that he's doing it with the intention to belittle you. Do you know what I mean?
Quite.
It's sort of like he's not.
And I don't know that.
Do you know what I'm going to do today when I wake up? I'm going to pull up in front of him, and he's not like, wonder to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
Well,
it's really quite absurd. You see, this is one of the things I like about South Park and all that kind of thing. Is that like, you can look at life and it's kind of absurd, and if you can laugh at the absurdity instead of getting angry and frustrated as to why aren't things the way they should be, or the way things I think they should be, then it's a better way of interacting and playing with the world.
Well,
like taking it and agreeing with it and amplifying it and saying, look how absurd your thinking is.
Yeah, and of course, if you behave like that, then arguably, within most scenarios, you're kind of bulletproof.
Mm.
It's and again back down to Ricky Gervais and how he behaves and how he works out his comedy and what he says to people and why he seems to be able to go right to the edge of being really quite on what some people call offensive, but it's kind of not. And it's like, how does he do that? Well, because he's pointing out how absurd things are.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
And he says the context. I'm pointing out the absurdity of this situation. I'm not being offensive to you. I'm not saying you shouldn't be these things.
Mm.
I'm just saying realise how absurd it is that you're saying this and being this. Or that you're at least taking it seriously. It's fine to do it, just don't take it quite so seriously.
Yeah, it's kind of playing around with the dichotomy between the two, yeah.
And that's why he gets away with it and why everybody goes, oh yeah, not everybody, but lots of people.
And also the thing that I've heard him saying, it isn't like comedy is an intellectual pursuit.
Yeah.
Sort of like, you know, it really, because it leads you, that's the whole idea of a punchline, is that you have an expectation and you let down one, and then the story changes. Oh, things aren't the way I thought they were, and now ha 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 ha. That's the kind of reaction that you have to it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just checking it's still recording. We've got hours, but we have got time in there.
But here's one thing I'm interested in, is sort of like with the emotions, it's sort of like, because one of the things when you look at what's it called, Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius and all those kind of different ways, and all these spiritual teachings and stuff, it's almost kind of like there's a kind of indifference that you have to be greater than the emotion. You have to be the space that negates it, kind of thing. You have to be non-reaction. So it's sort of like, and that's the kind of Zen place that people in the Buddha and all that kind of stuff, it's that you reach this place of euphoria whereby you're unaffected. But I don't like that idea of being indifferent or non-reactive or not affected, because to me, if I care about something and if I value something, I'm going to value it being taken away from me. And so therefore my thinking is, and this is the way that I personally think, is that so if I don't react, if I don't get emotional, that means I don't Do you know what I mean? It's let me just rephrase this. It's sort of like, say if something happens, a lot of stuff I actually let slide. I don't watch TV. When I do go on social media, it's to pontificate. It's not to sort of read what other people think and latch on to things. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like I have an A to B way of thinking, and I think I'm going to go from A to B, and it's sort of like, and I care about getting there, because if I get to B, that would be good for me. That would be good for the community. That'd be good. That's a good goal for everybody, or at least I think it would be. It's a good intention, at least. I'm not going out there to hurt people. I'm not going out there to make myself worse. So when I'm on my way to that, I care about that. So anything that becomes an obstacle in this, anything that helps me get towards that, I appreciate, and I help back, because that helps me help everybody else.
Yeah.
Anything that becomes an obstacle that gets in the way or prevents me or says that I can't do it, even my own thinking, is like, if something happens, I get emotional and I get upset and angry because I do care, and I care because I value this, and it's been taken away. So it's kind of like emotions are tracking you on the way to a goal. So when things go right, it feels good. When things go bad, you get angry and upset. But it's only because you care. It's the difference between the two. So anything that's in accordance with that line is great. Whereas indifference, kind of like, that's where it gets back to the spiritual plane, whereby that's the observer that's indifferent. Whereas when you're playing the story, it's quite exciting, because really, if you were truly indifferent and apathetic and just sort of like, it's kind of like, again, it kind of, the peacefulness ties in with the nihilism. It's kind of like, well, nothing matters, or everything's cool. Do you know, it's the same kind of thing, but one's positive, got a spin on it, one's a negative spin. It's kind of sitting in this place here, saying that this can happen, it'll be okay, and this cannot happen, it'll be okay. But the moment you get into a story where you're acting out a role in a character in a narrative, the emotions make it exciting. It's all part of the play. Because if you just went out and got what you wanted to get and you got it, then you would have you wouldn't have been on the hero's journey. You wouldn't have overcome adversity. You wouldn't have gone against the system. There wouldn't have been all this sort of like this rich emotion that's embedded in trying to create the best outcome that you can create. Does that make sense? So it's sort of like, how much of it is fun and exciting to go? Because I love Eckhart, but would I want to go with him to a nightclub? Do you know what I mean? Would it be a good laugh? I don't know.
He might be.
He might be. He might get up there. I don't know what you heard about me. You know, picking up with all the gold chains on him, blinging Eckhart, and he turns up. He's got his bitches hand in hand, and he goes, "Oh, this is the other side of me." Blah, blah. He starts smoking a cigar, and he starts putting lap dances on, and starts smacking people's ass. He might be like that, because that's fun. It's exciting. You can't. It's surprising. Whereas with Eckhart, you kind of know what you get. And this isn't to diss on Eckhart. I'm just saying, it's just you wouldn't. He's kind of like, he doesn't need to do all that and titillation, because everything's cool, everything's nice.
Yeah.
But when everything's nice, nothing happens.
Well,
Do you know what I mean? So so that's why I kind of see this as kind of spirituality as a kind of safe space, but also it's about really changing the story to get a better story, so that you can have this great. So take your negative story that's negative and turn it into a positive story, and then once you've got that positive story spinning, and say if something does go right, you can just step out of that into your Eckhart Tolle mode, and then until the time is right to come back in and make it into a positive story again. The moment you feel it go negative.
Yeah.
So now you're shifting gears between two different modes of being.
Yeah.
So one's a parent, one's the child.
Yeah.
So the child is acting out in the world and playing and seeing what life's about. And then the other one is being the parent and saying, all right, let's have some time out and step back and have a look and just reassess, because you're in a bad mood and this isn't going in a good direction.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's reassess this. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, and that's pretty much what I've just said about the road rage thing. So the watcher's there, the road rage incident occurs. Whoa, okay, we need to step out a minute. We need to step out of the room and breathe. Yeah, okay. What just happened? Well, it doesn't really matter what you think they were doing. We don't know. So the only way to react to this is just to calm down, breathe, and then carry on.
But what I want is automatic transition, so that you don't have to, because it takes energy to and you forget to shift gears. Like you're going in one gear, you put your foot down and accelerate.
Well, I think
the car can't do it.
I don't think you get to have automatic transition like that. I think
that would be a good thing, wouldn't it?
It would, but I think like everything, you have to practice this consciously.
Because these are two opposing states.
You have to practice. You have to consciously practice the two beat. The gear between states, hence this, right? What do you think I bought this for? Well, because I can then work out when I'm doing meditation and
again, it comes back to attention. You're paying attention to your own.
Paying
bodily
attention
state.
to myself.
And getting into the habit of it.
Yeah, and getting into the habit of, am I really paying attention all the time?
Mm.
But also saying, like you say, as a parent and a child, of when I want to go play, I can go play. That's okay.
It's
But
safe play.
so long as, well, it's not even, it doesn't have to even be safe from the point of view that nothing can go wrong. It just has to be safe from the point of view that you've at least thought about what might go wrong.
Yeah.
And that the parent ultimately isn't that far away, just keeping a tab on you, which is you looking after yourself.
The observing ego.
But without it being necessarily a huge restriction. Like, you don't have to have, like, you know, you can skydive and it's cool. And I'm still here. I've done nearly 600 skydives. I'm fine. I know people that have done thousands and thousands. I mean, 20,000, right? And they're still fine. You know, they're great. But so I can have this observer up here, just keeping an eye, but saying, okay, look, you've got this place where you can have this story if you want it, but play with it. It doesn't have to be like rigidly like this, that, and the other. And then I'm not very happy with this story, but I've got to keep going with it because it's the one that I started with, and I got.
So there are two different states. There's kind of like the acting out the ego state, whereby you're in you and you are who you believe you are, and you're acting out a story, and it's all exciting and emotional, and some of there's highs and lows, and then there's. You see, also the lows are telling you, like your anger is telling you information. So it's a case of, is it okay to step out of that, or should you listen? What, you're only going to pay attention to the good emotions?
No. You're paying attention to the anger. What you're not letting it do is take over.
But that's the nature of it.
And be irrational.
Isn't that the nature of it?
Absolutely, it's the nature of it. But that doesn't mean you have to sit with it and then let it spoil the rest of your day.
So the consciousness is supposedly more superior than nature in a
I
way.
I think
Because
what
it overrides it or overlooks it or can interject it.
I think for us as conscious and sentient beings, that's where it's got to go.
Yeah.
Because the problem with our survival instincts.
Yeah, you just turn back into an animal.
Yeah, which is, so we have the same survival instincts as everybody else. It's just that, and everybody knows the difference between you and a gazelle is that the gazelle goes into survival instincts, runs from the lion, which is going to eat it, and then the second the chase is over, the lion's gone. You know, he ate my mate. I'm eating grass. So I'm cool again. That's it. It's gone. It doesn't carry on thinking about it for the rest of the day.
Yeah, whereas we carry it around with it as a story.
Whereas we
in our
go,
pocket.
That bastard fucking lion came after.
Yeah,
I'm going to do this to it. Now what am I doing? Well, I'm living in a fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm making up this new story about how I'm going to go and do this to the lion and cut his feet off and nail into a tree and whatever it is, right? I'm going to do all those things but none of these things I'm going to do because I'm a freaking gazelle and he's a lion, right? And anyway, the point is that it doesn't matter, and the lion actually isn't being a bad guy. He's just getting his dinner,
yeah.
right? No, he's not, and that's it. So there's this assumption because the lion's trying to kill the gazelle. Well, the lion's not actually a bad guy here. He's not being malicious. He's just doing what nature dictates. I need to eat, and there's 100 gazelles, and there's just one of me. Like, well, that's how it works.
It's a cognitive distortion. So an event happens, and you perceive it as to be positive or negative.
But it's
and
not.
Then let's say if you do perceive it as negative, and then you repeat, say if, like you lost 20 quid. Now you could perceive that as a positive or a negative.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people, oh my god, how do you perceive that as positive? but let's say you perceive that as a negative. I lost 20 quid. Now I tell you about how Paul lost 20 quid. I go and tell my mum, oh mum, I lost 20 quid. I put on Facebook, oh everybody, I lost 20 quid. Oh my god, babe, text me, babe. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh, you're all right. You're all right, man. You're okay.
Yeah, let me know if you're okay.
Yeah. You're all right.
You've checked in. So sort of like.
But that's how you get. No, but hold on. This goes further than this. Right, you've texted everybody. You've texted me, and I haven't got back because I'm like, listen. He doesn't fucking care. I've lost 20 quid. The bastard.
That's like that, but yeah. But let's just stick. Like the idea is that you lose 20 quid, and then you tell people about it because you've created a story out of it now, made it part of your identity.
Yep.
I lost 20 quid.
Yeah.
That I neglected my responsibilities to even take care of a £20 note.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How could I be responsible for anything else in my life when I can't even look after a £20 note? The £20 note was against me. The wind took it away. Nature's against me. Like, there's all these stories. Like someone stole it from me, the bastards. So
So
they just want to see me fail. Yeah. So but either way, the £20 was in your life and now it's not. right? But you've created, because you've told people about it like 4 or 5 times over, you've now lost 100 quid because that you've just embellished the problem and you've created a cognitive distortion. So you've taken it as a negative and then you've enriched it by creating a story around it.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what we're doing. But it's very difficult to see that because this is something we seem to do naturally if you have a proclivity to do it.
Yeah.
And I think there are certain people, based on your character type, whereby you have a proclivity to look for the good in things or be practical and conservative and kind of like very sort of like realistic. And then there's people that like catastrophize everything. And so so different things affect different people in different ways. And that's all about how we're creating our story and how we identify with that story that we're a part of.
Yeah.
But we are the creators. But how much of it are we in control of that, and how much of it is useful? And that's where it gets a bit kind of like, what can I use out of this? What is useful in all this? Because what's the better way of being? Do you know what I mean? When these things happen naturally. Say, for example, if I'm doing something and someone comes and puts pressure on me, my heart beats faster because it goes into fight or flight. So now my blood's pumping. Now it cuts off a part of the brain that makes rational decisions. So now you go, 2 times 2, 6. That's what the whole family fortunes game is. We asked 6 people to name something you put on your toast. Hedgehogs. Like, do you know what I mean? Because what's happened is they're nervous.
Yeah.
They're nervous. And then okay.
Yeah, carry on. I'm just checking it still. Yeah, we're still rolling. 2 hours, 19 minutes.
Cool. They're nervous, the heart's beating, it's cutting off...
We'll have a wee in 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's cutting off the part of the brain that makes rational decisions. And it's just all over. It's just, the body's gone into, like, I'm in it or out. It's binary decision making. There's no... You don't need to be intelligent when you're fighting or flying or running, or playing dead. So your body... So the first thing to do, the very first thing that you can do is just breathe. And that's why breathing in, like yawning, that's why breathing in meditation and all these things, and the first thing you pay attention to, because it's taking control of your physiology, and that's sometimes a better way, and this is a really good point actually, it's sometimes a better way than trying to overcome the thought, because you're going right to your base, your physiological setup. And then, because the thoughts are further up here, they're part of your psychology, but you need to breathe before you can think. So you're taking it right at the core of the base, at the seed of it. So the moment you go, you get more blood flow going around because it's oxygenating the blood more. Now you're having better thoughts because you literally give yourself a lobotomy. You go and then you and you go back and then you're like and then you think, and then you cover up the fact that you went but didn't you realise you came in, you were mental? No, I don't remember that. Yeah, you're a psycho. No, I wonder why everybody was acting weird around. So it's not only that you go into this altered state, it's almost like hypnosis. You go into this altered state, you're this different character because emotions possess you. You act irrationally, then you come back, and then you cover up the irrationality as if it never happens, as if like, because your consciousness has been the same the whole time. It doesn't observe your own behaviour. It's like when you hear your own voice or look at yourself on camera, you're like, oh my god, I really look like that, because you can't see yourself outside of yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're not like in the Sims characters.
Yeah.
So I'm rounding this up. So
go for it.
So one of the things that we could do is sort of concentrate on breathing, and that's what, obviously, that's part of the meditation thing, because because you think that, we'll just change our thoughts. Sometimes it's difficult to interact with the thoughts, but if we can control our physiology by controlling our breathing, then our thoughts will generate better decisions and thought processes, because parts of our brain will be working, because all the blood won't be rushing from the brain to the heart for fight or flight. It'll be you'll just breathe. I think it's for about 1 minute and 30 seconds or something. You breathe like that properly and get oxygenated blood, you're now calmer.
Yeah.
Because all you're functioning better, because everything shuts down, like you get colder hands, everything goes towards protecting the main organs, and then so you start breathing and everything goes, and your brain comes back online. Hello, we're back. Sort of like dun. But that's the that's the amazing thing I think is with these emotions, they're so powerful and potent, and we're so driven by them, and it's like they're not demons or angels, but it's like they kind of possess you in a way.
Yeah.
They're like gods. And they take over your body temporarily and inhibit you, and then they go away again, and then they cover up their tracks. And I think just through breathing, we can negate these, so we can still feel them, but not feel the brute force of them. So it's the difference between getting a knife in someone and running it down the leg, and sort of like just going, can you feel that? Oh yeah, I can feel that. It's sort of like, it takes away the harshness of it, do you know what I mean? Like the bruteness of it.
Yeah.
By breathing. So I think breathing is a better entry to trying to challenge all these negative thoughts that you just have going on in your head all day.
Yeah.
Because then you'll get better quality thoughts when you're in a better state. So So go for getting a better physiological state by, and sorry, this goes back to my notes earlier because I am wrapping this up. This goes back to sleeping, eating, and thoughts, breathing, that kind of thing. Taking good care of yourself so that what grows from you is a better quality thought.
Yeah.
Because when you are in that good place, they naturally they go around the narrative.
Yeah.
Thoughts derive around the narrative. So if you have a narrative, things are good, things are going well, I'm taking care. You're starting out with the day with that gratitude attitude, and then anything that comes up, if you're spending the majority of your time in that, then you're like, oh, you only come out of temporary, then you get back onto course.
Yeah.
You sort of like, so you have a straight line, and then that takes me out, and you can bring it back easily. Whereas if you just go out and just see what happens, and you've not set something up for your life, you haven't got anything a baseline to bring it back to. So it just goes from one thing to the other, and you're just all over the place. Whereas if you say, I'm going to set this day up for myself, I'm going to be grateful, I'm going to breathe right, I'm going to eat right, and they're things that I am in control of.
Yeah.
And so if I work on that, when something throws me offline, I can just bring it back to the centre and bring it forward, and use it as so when an obstacle comes up, I can find the lesson to be learned in it, the good thing of how this can help me achieve my goal instead of prevent me from getting to it and getting frustrated and angry. Sorry for blabbling on, but I just have to get that out.
No, that was really concise, and it's and that's it.
So you still feel it, but it doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, and
you don't take the feelings personally.
That's it. The key is that this is not personal.
It's kind of sad, really, isn't it?
Well, it is what it is, you know, and as I say, what I've been doing and what I'll do tonight is I will make a conscious effort to clear the backstory.
I thought you was going to say clear the back passage.
Well, I'll do that too, because there's nothing worse than dropping a humdinger of a
Sorry, that's just my story. It's somebody else's problem now. Super Mario can figure it out.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, in other words, if I go in with the backstory of how I think everybody thinks about me and how I think people think that I am and how I believe people think that they're going to judge me and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. If I go into any interaction with how I think people are going to judge me and what I know they're going to think and how I believe they will do whatever, right? If I go with that, well, this is just going to go bad, right? This is not going to go well. It's just not.
I think it is. Life is always better when you just roll the dice and take your chances, and aren't afraid to roll the dice, and aren't afraid of the outcome or needing it to be a certain way. You're just going to see what number it's going to roll on.
So here's it,
and that will be the right number because that's the number it landed on.
Yeah. So if I go in with, I'm just going to be what I am, because that's all I can be. What I know, what I am, all those things. I know and trust that the right things will come out at the right time. Mm. And trust that I will know what to say when I need to say it rather than try and rehearse it. And trust that, generally speaking, if you present yourself correctly, you'll get the best version of somebody else back at you. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is the customer services team, right? So I walk in, this fucking pen is a pile of shit, and you are going to sort it out for me, you dick. You and your fucking company as to whatever, right? How are you feeling about me right now? Well, yeah, I might be right that the pen's shit, but the bottom line is I'm not really, you're not seeing the best side of me, and I'm certainly not going to get the best side of you back from that. I'm going to get the corporate line of, well, yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Wood, we are going to sort your pen out, but, you know, your motivation to help me is pretty low by now, because I've just been quite nasty to you as a human being. I just made a whole load of assumptions, and I've used you as a corporate face, and I've not treated you as a human being at all. I just treated you as I've got a problem, and I want you to sort it out. You and your company. You know, I'm not even talking. I'm talking to the company. Yeah. But I'm not treating you very well as a human being, right?
Yeah.
So here's the other way I come in to customer services with my broken pen. Hi, I bought this pen earlier, and unfortunately, it's broken and it doesn't work. Can you help me with that? And you go, well, because you're customer services, you expect people to come in with broken pens, right? And you go,
computer says no.
Computer says no.
Then what?
Oh no.
It's only when you don't get what you want that it becomes a problem.
Right. But here's the thing. Is like, well, okay, look. You know, the bottom line is I need another pen. And you know, and hopefully, if you're a really good customer service team, what you're going to do is go,
I can sell you another pen.
No,
sell me this pen.
So best way to deal with it is, here's another pen.
Yeah.
And that's what will probably happen, and most customer services have got wise to the fact that the best thing to do is just to give the person another pen, then I'll come back and I'll buy more pens another time, right? But the bottom line is I'm treating you as a human being. So what I've found is that if I go in with the, look, we've got to have this interaction, and it's not you, I just need another pen because this one's broken and the company sold me a pen, it doesn't work, and that's what I won't come to buy. So you've not filled it for me. So can you deal with that for me or not? Now if I'm really if I'm treating you with respect and care and kindness, but I'm still saying I still want my pen, but it's not you, right? You will do more for me. I will see the best version of you, and the best version of you is, and I don't know about you, but I've had it where I've gone in and been like that, and people have gone, well, technically speaking, I'm not supposed to. I had it with a coat, I didn't have the receipt. Technically speaking, that's a shop within the shop, so I shouldn't really do this, but whatever. We'll swap it. Whereas if I'd have gone in with anger and treating, I don't give a shit who you are, I just want my fucking coat, you're going to go, don't have to give it to him. I don't have to bend the rules, and I'm not going to.
Yeah,
so,
can you help me, please?
Whereas if I say, look, I've got this coat, I haven't got the receipt, can you help me, please?
Storytelling, yeah.
Yeah? And you go...
Which character do you want to be?
And,
do you want to be the good guy or the bad guy? The good guy that helps me and does his job, and helps me achieve the goal, and slay the dragon? Or do you want to be the twat that gets in the way and steals the...
It doesn't really matter, I'm and you might be able to have to turn around to me for your own protection and say, I can't help you. And I would, and if you say, look, I just can't help you because I just can't, because if I do this, then I get fired and I can't manage.
Yeah, but I read this Facebook post this morning that said if I dreamed it, I could achieve it. So I believe that you can, because I had a dream about you.
Well, you'll get people trying to persuade you and all that kind of thing. But really, what I'm saying is, if I go into a network meeting tonight and I have the openness and presence, then there is a very large. Here's the other thing: it works the other way around too. So if somebody is very malevolent and they are trying to manipulate me, that will look so much more obvious if I'm being genuine.
I found that as well. Yeah.
Because it doesn't work, because I'm not playing along with their story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying there is no story. We're creating it right now. But you're trying to what narrative are you putting on this? You're trying to manipulate the situation, and it looks so much more obvious.
But a lot of people are attracted to dominant leaders that are bullies.
Well, yeah, but they are because of course that's fear. That's it's easier. It does, but it works because I'm too frightened to go out and do this myself.
I'd like to just put this point, because it's respect, but there's two types of respect. There's respect of fear, like I've got a gun on you, so I respect you because I kind of have to. Because it's sort of like it's out of fear.
Yeah,
you're respecting it, and there's admiration. So like, oh, I really respect that person. So it's sort of like, again, one's a positive, one's a negative. So they can get what they want, but it's out of fear and dominance. But that's again what we're evolutionarily designed to. We're designed to not lose a fiver, not to gain one. So whenever we look at making, that's why these positive changes are so hard, because it's very difficult to optimize. We're designed to not be killed and eaten, and just to make sure that our genes propagate. So we're designed to look for problems. We're designed to, look, what's that rustling in the bushes?
We are
Don't assume the worst.
Yeah.
But that's like millions of years of.
Sure.
I mean, so it's sort of like when you say we are currently, yeah, but it's going to be a long time before we come out of our evolved states.
Well, relatively speaking,
it's just how we're going to have a relationship with our evolution. Do you know what I mean? Like our biology.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, and how that can work with our raise of level of consciousness.
Yeah.
And integrating the two in the parent-child dynamic, instead of saying that one's better than the other, because what you're going to say, evolution's wrong. Or you're going to say that, it's not a good thing to get nervous and afraid. Well, it is, because it's your body's way of preparing to deal with shit that you don't want to deal with. Because it might be he comes out of his van and starts to fight. Well, you're ready to go. Yeah. So you better be in that state. Whereas, again, if you're Eckhart, you just get punched in the face. You'll be like, you know what I mean? It's sort of like...
maybe not.
I think that should be a TV show. I think they should put him on Jeremy Kyle or something. So he's got all these babies from all these different baby mamas. Yeah, so I think it's about a reconciliation between those two states, the observer, the observed, and but again, it's like, how do you go about doing that? I think we've come up with a few ways.
Yeah,
I think
there's some good brainstorming.
It's just, how do you make it as part of a daily habit so that you are the person that's curious to pick up that saxophone, that state where it's all good and loving and there's something, it's all good. It's a natural thing to occur. How can we generate more of those circumstances and avoid the ones that are sort of like where you're trapped in your idealistic views of how you think things should be, because there's two different yous there, and it's nicer, you have a better life for you and everyone else when you're in that curious space as opposed to when you're judging.
Yeah, and I
At
think
the moment you have an ideal, you have a judge, because things should be like this. Oh, now you're judging it when it's not that way.
Yeah, and I think if you get sensitive to your emotions and your feelings and your responses to things, and you're then honest about what they're telling you, then that's the thing, right? So I think there's this element of, do I really feel in a flow with this thing? Am I really enjoying this thing? Am I really like just in a flow state? Am I really losing time? When you enjoy something, the general consensus is that you lose time. The time essentially switches off. If I'm really in my space, playing my saxophone or singing or writing or whatever it might be, if I'm really in my space, I lose time. And that is the biggest indicator that this is going well, because I'm no longer consciously trying to manipulate this story. I'm just being it.
Well, I think you actually go into that space of observing your story when you're going through a transformation. That's because, like I said, that's your kind of safe space. So when you're engaged in something, you're observing. That's what you're doing when you're learning. I press this. You're in observing mode. So time, space, and all that, because you're out of story mode.
Yeah, well,
sense?
yeah,
Because
but I don't think you're in experiencing mode. You're not even necessarily watching it. What I would argue about when I'm doing
because so much of life is recollection, isn't it?
I
did this morning.
You're
like
not
storytelling.
you're in experience
what I'm going to do
mode.
tomorrow, but very rarely do you just sit and just experience the information that's around you.
Yeah, and so when you're what happens when you do something really exceptional, you can't actually remember it, because very consciously, very easily, or you can, but you can't remember it kind of doing it half the time, and that's quite a common kind of flow state argument. Well, what I'm really saying is that what you're saying is sorry, I think
it's alright to have thoughts, but so long as you don't get heavily invested and believe each thought that comes into your head.
Yes,
it's okay to have feelings so long as you don't take each feeling deeply personally. And it's about like what's this emotion, what's this thought trying to tell me, and can I extract anything useful from that?
Yeah, because you're getting some feedback, right, from your body. Right, now, I guess the argument then is you have to make sure that the feedback is feedback of something that's actually happening over feedback of something that you're thinking about, because there is that whole thing about, if you have a thought of a bad previous experience, then the feedback you're getting isn't actually current. It isn't based on a current situation, it's based on a previous situation, so it's not good feedback.
But I think you bring yourself to any present moment. That's what I'm thinking. You bring your memory and your history and everything to a present moment, and that's what I'm saying. The more you can kind of let go of your history and letting go of how you think things should be and who you are and who everyone else is and blah blah blah, and just come out of storytelling mode and just sort of like just be and just observe and just allow life to unfold without interfering with it and wanting it to be different to how it is. That's when you tap into that flow state of that sort of like the awareness. Yeah. Because you're being curious instead. I think it is curiosity over judgment. So when you're being curious, you're being open and questioning. When you're in judgment mode, you're saying things should be like this, and you're rigid, and you're putting up walls. And
that's fine. That's
all right. I think we should bring it to a close soon.
Anyway, yeah,
shouldn't we? We've done
let's do it.
A lot. So are we happy with all that?
I think so. Let's just shut it down.
How long did we do?
We did. I think it's about 2.5 hours.
That's not too bad.
There's 2.5 hours so there, and I can get that condensed into an MP3, and we can have a listen through and flick through it quickly. But I'll mess with the audio first. So yeah, over and out.
The difference between getting a knife in someone and running it down the leg.
We do go a bit far off sometimes.
I can feel that. It's sort of like.
Oh, we've got to close this down as well. This one.
The harshness of it. Do you know what I mean? Like the brutalness of it.
Yeah.
By breathing. So I think breathing.